Chapter 288. Limba Island. The Zhou family land is above a fourth-order spiritual vein. The peaks stood on the spiritual veins, and there were immortal palaces looming on each peak. Coupled with the vast clouds between the peaks, the entire Zhou family looked like a fairyland. Tongtian Peak is the sphere of influence of the main line of the Zhou family. The family of the Zhou family, including Zhou Mubai, usually lived in the boundary of Tongtian Peak. Although Tongtian Peak is the name of the mountain, the entire Tongtian Peak area covers an extremely wide area, almost 100 miles in diameter, occupying more than half of the entire Zhou family area. At this time, the Yingbin Hall on Tongtian Peak was bustling like never before. In the past, the Zhou family's family land was almost never open to the public, but this time, Zhou Mingho, the ancestor of the Zhou family, not only invited Sangzhou cultivators to come to watch the ceremony. Even Taizhou Jiang's family and Yuanshan Xianqing were alarmed, and sent a Jindan real person to come over, which can be said to give the Zhou family enough face. But everyone knows that although the Zhou family is a big family in Sangzhou, it is nothing compared to the two major forces of Taizhou Jiang family and Yuanshan Xianqing. Jiang's family and Yuanshan Xianqing's move may have other meanings. But this has nothing to do with the monks who came to watch the ceremony. No matter how strong the Jiang family and Yuanshan Xianqing are, they can't be in chaos in front of everyone's eyes. Inside an ancient fairy palace in the Yingbin Hall, a silver-haired Taoist stood on the cliff, with the immortal and luxurious Asgard behind him, and the cliff in front of him. Looking ahead, it is a sea of clouds, and a red sun leaps above it. 7 uncles. A gentle female voice came from behind. The silver-haired old man turned around, looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, and said with a smile, "You're here, Xiao Qinyan." Jiang Qinyan was wearing a black gauze, and there was a hint of worry in her charming face. It seemed that Jiang Qinyan was thinking. Jiang Zui said warmly, "Qinyan, how long have you been practicing in the family?" Reporting to the 7th uncle, Qinyan has been practicing for more than 60 years. It took more than 60 years to break through the Purple Mansion, and luck is really good. Jiang Qinyan knew what Jiang Qingyi meant, and said with a gloomy expression, "Qinyan can have today, all depends on family cultivation." Yes, Jiang Zhu nodded, without the Jiang family, how could our Jiang family be today? Look at the monks who come and go in the Zhou family this week. Which one does not show a gesture of bowing his head when he sees our Jiang family? Why? It's not that he is afraid of the power of my Jiang family. As soon as Jiang Zhu said this, the conversation changed. So, every member of our Jiang family has the obligation to dedicate himself to the family, whether it's you or me, do you understand? Jiang Qinyan lowered her head. Qinyan understands. Good boy, Jiang Zui nodded with satisfaction. Adjust your mentality, and in a few days, I will take you to meet your future husband. Yes. Jiang Zhu waved his hand, watched Jiang Qinyan slowly retreat, and said to the heir on the side, "Qinyi, do you think that 7th uncle's trip is a little underwhelming?" Next moment, Jiang Qinye's figure was instantly exposed in front of Jiang Zui, and he said in fear, "Why did the 7th uncle say this? Qinyi never meant it. Don't say anything against your heart, don't say you think it's inferior, even I think it's very despicable." Jiang Qinai lowered his head and said nothing. But Sangzhou is too important to my Jiang family, and there is absolutely no room for mistakes. Otherwise, my Jiang family may be wiped out. Qinyi understands. No, you don't understand. Jiang Zui smiled and said, "However, if you don't understand, you have to implement it, understand?" Jiang Qinai was stunned for a moment, then nodded seriously. Only then did Jiang Zui show satisfaction. He glanced at the direction of old ancestor Zhou's retreat, and the pressure belonging to the Jindan cultivator was getting stronger and stronger. Even if he was separated by dozens of miles, he could faintly feel this momentum. The mountains and forests where spirit beasts and birds played in the past were silent now, without the slightest sound. Zhou Mingho succeeded. Jiang Zhu smiled lightly. Jiang Qinai seemed a little unbelievable. He looked at his 7th uncle in shock. Zhou Mingho actually succeeded in forming an elixir? Then he is not a cultivator of Jindan. How can it be so simple? Jiang Zui shook his head. The cultivator of the Zifu has broken through to the golden core stage, and the formation of the alchemy is only the first threshold, and this threshold is difficult for ordinary late-stage Zifu cultivators. But it is not too difficult for the Zifu cultivator who has reached the second realm of the Tao, especially with the help of Jie Jindan. For the Zifu cultivator in the second realm, the real difficulty lies in the golden core thunder tribulation after the formation of the pill. Usually, we call such monks who have not survived the golden core thunder tribulation as fake Dan monks. Do you know why? Jiang Chenai shook his head. This kind of secret, even if he is the Daozi of the Jiang family, he has never heard of it. After all, this is just a private statement between the Jindan cultivators. He is a junior in the Purple Mansion, so how can he know? Jiang Zui seemed to be in a good mood. He explained with a smile. The so-called fake alchemy cultivator is the state that has not been baptized by lightning after forming alchemy. Strictly speaking, this kind of cultivator has already condensed the golden core, but because it has not been baptized by lightning, the body, especially the soul, has not undergone the final transformation, so it is still fundamentally different from the golden core cultivator. This difference is not reflected in strength. There is not much difference between some fake Dan cultivators and Jin Dan cultivators after the baptism of Lei Jie. But the future of the two is very different. Seeing Jiang Chenye's relished appearance, Jiang Zui continued, you should know that there are 3 levels of golden core thunder tribulation. The first is the calamity of the body, the second is the calamity of mana, and the third is the robbery of the soul. When it comes to the third level of thunder calamity, Jiang Zui's tone is extraordinarily serious, even if so many years have passed. The third level divine soul tribulation in the golden core thunder tribulation still left a great psychological shadow on him. There are many cultivators in Zifu who choose to practice a secret technique that conceals the secrets before conjuring pills. The only function of this secret technique is to make thunder tribulation unable to sense that the monks have conjured pills. In this way, the thunder tribulation will naturally not descend. Anything like this? Jiang Chenye's eyes lit up when he heard this. Oh, good thing. Jiang Zui sneered, it's just a means to deceive yourself. Due to the fact that they have not crossed the calamity of the soul, although the strength of the fake alchemy cultivator is not much different from that of the golden alchemy cultivator after the calamity, the lifespan of the two is very different. The lifespan of a fake Dan cultivator is at most less than 100 years longer than that of a Zifu cultivator. 600 years of lifespan is the limit of a fake Dan cultivator. And because the body, mana, and soul have not undergone the last transformation, the path of the fake pill cultivator has been exhausted, and there will be no progress in the future. Hear this. Jiang Chenye's heart trembled slightly, and suddenly he stopped thinking about fake pills. Not only that. Jiang Zui smiled and said, because the fake pill cultivators are trying to hide the sky and the sea by cultivating secret methods to cover up the secrets of the sky, they will never dare to explode their full strength in fighting against others, so as not to lead to the golden core thunder tribulation. Therefore, in the world of immortality, there are often jokes about fake Dan cultivators being beheaded by cultivators of Zifu across the border. 7th uncle, what do you think Zhou Mingho will choose this time? Jiang Zui pondered for a moment. Zhou Mingho dared to invite Sangzhou cultivators to come to watch the ceremony. He must have the heart to break the cauldron and sink the boat, so I guess he will not use tricks, but choose to cross the golden pill thunder calamity. The voice just fell. Above the main peak of Tongtian Peak, the sky darkened. Within 100 miles, all the sunlight was blocked by dark thunderclouds. Come on, let's go and see. Okay. Jiang Chenai nodded excitedly. This is the first time he has seen someone cross the golden core thunder tribulation. In addition to the two of them, in the welcoming hall, a large group of monks flew towards the main peak of Tongtian Peak. A time. One after another escaping light is like a streamer, flickering under the pitch-black sky. Chen Daoxian, Zhou Mubai and others were on their way. Sudden. A terrifying heavenly might erupted in the direction of the Zhou family. Although the cultivators present were all in the Zifu period, they were still frightened by this terrifying power. Not good. The patriarch is about to cross the robbery. Zhou Mubai didn't expect that, just by his effort to meet Chen Daoxian, Zhou Laozu would be robbed. Brother Zhou, go. Okay. Zhou Mubai's face was heavy. Everyone immediately raised the escape light to the limit, and after less than half a cup of tea, they rushed to the Zhou family place. Now. Around Tongtian Peak, hundreds of monks were already standing in the sky, looking at the main peak of Tongtian Peak from a distance. The monks present were all monks from the Purple House, and the two standing in the front were two Jindan real people. Logically speaking, Zhou Laozu crossed the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation. There is no reason for the Golden Core real person to come to watch the ceremony. After all, watching the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation is of no use to the real Golden Core. High in the air, Jiang Zui stood side by side with the Jindan real person in Yuanshan Xianqing. Jiang Zui sneered slightly, fellow Daoist Qi, you brought these juniors to watch the ceremony. Isn't Yuanshan Xianqing without Jindan cultivators? Humph, don't bother Daoist Jiang, my Yuanshan immortal city is not only guarded by the 7 great gods, but also has a tutor personally in charge. I don't believe that any Xiao Xiao dares to offend. On the other hand, fellow Daoist Jiang, I heard that your Jiang family not only gained nothing in the true immortal origin realm last time, but in the end they couldn't even afford the Avenue Stone tablet. What, is your Jiang family very short of money? Do you need me to lend you some from Yuanshan Xianqing? The Jindan cultivator who spoke was named Qi Guangxiao, who was the only Jindan disciple of true monarch Yuanshan. The 7 great generals in his mouth are the 7 Jindan scattered cultivators recruited by Yuanshan Jinjuan at a high cost, but these Jindan scattered cultivators are only responsible for guarding Yuanshan Xianqing. As for other adventurous matters, these Jindan loose cultivators may not necessarily obey orders. Who knows? When Jiang Zhu heard that Qi Guangxiao wanted to lend them money, not only was he not angry, but he smiled and said, "Are you Yuanshan Xianqing really willing to lend money to my Jiang family?" Heard. Qi Guangxiao's expression froze. He did not expect that the 7th elder of the Jiang family, a dignified late Jindan cultivator, would be so shameless to do such a thing on a stick. Humph. Qi Guangxiao had a dark face and turned his head away, not wanting to talk to him. Seeing his airbag appearance, Jiang Zhu suddenly laughed. Although Yuanshan Xianqing has a grudge against the Jiang family, it is not a serious problem for the Jiang family's confidants. After all, there is only one immortal city in Yuanshan Xianqing, and its sphere of influence is only the boundary between the 3 states, and it is not even a single prefecture. The prosperity of Yuanshan Immortal City is based on the dividends brought by the tens of millions of scattered cultivators. Without these loose cultivators, Yuanshan Xianqing would be nothing. Loose cultivators are a group of people who see the wind and steer the rudder, and they are the most unreliable group in the cultivator world. This is Jiang Laozi's original words, and Jiang Zui also agrees. In the immortal world, there is no top-level force, it is completely composed of loose cultivators. Because loose cultivators are, in the final analysis, a group of people who come when they are good and leave when they don't. It is simply impossible for you to expect this group of people to sacrifice their lives for each other. Yuanshan Immortal City seems to be huge, with a population of tens of millions of loose cultivators, but with so many scattered cultivators, how many people dare to say that they and Yuanshan Immortal City coexist? I'm afraid not even 1 in 1,000. This is also the reason why the number of loose cultivators is obviously the largest in the cultivation world, but it is the least favorable. Qi Guangxiao was choked by Jiang Zhu, and when he felt that his heart was not going well, he saw more than a dozen escaping lights flying towards him. Taking a closer look, I found that Zhou Mubai and Chen Daoxian were taking the lead. Qi Guangxiao immediately led the people from Yuanshan Xianqing to greet him. The last time Yuanshan Xianqing cooperated with Zhangzhou Cultivator in true immortal origin realm, Zhou Mubai also accepted the high-priced employment of Yuanshan Jinjuan. Even if Jinjuan Yuanshan took a look at Chen Daoxian, he still spent 120 drops of the power of good fortune to buy a stone tablet after he left the real fairyland. Therefore, the relationship between the two parties is good. Qi Guangxiao, Chen Daoxian reluctantly met the other parties several times during his recent trip to Taizhou. It's just that he had been standing behind true monarch Yuanchen back then, and he didn't say much to everyone. Fellow Daoist Zhou and fellow Daoist Chen, stay safe, both of you. When Qi Guangxiao saw Chen Daoxian and the two, he quickly greeted them warmly. Senior Qi is very polite. Chen Daoxian and Zhou Mubai bowed to Qi Guangxiao. Jiang Zhu, who was on the side, saw that the two sides were familiar with each other, but he didn't mean to come forward to say hello at all, and he behaved very coldly. But Chen Daoxian and Zhou Mubai couldn't be rude when such a late Jindan cultivator was in front of them. They bowed their hands to Jiang Zhu, Jiang Zhenren. Jiang Zui smiled gently at the two of them. To be honest, Chen Daoxian's impression of Jiang Zui is a little better based on his personal first impression. Because the other party's sense of proportion is very good, neither treats coldly by virtue of his cultivation, nor does he appear overly eager. Compare. This real Qi is much worse in this regard. However, Chen Daoxian can also understand that this Qi Guangxiao has been in the loose cultivation all the year round, and he has a more reckless habit than the children of the family. Chen Daoxian had a vague guess in his heart about the two suddenly coming to Zhangzhou. Or, he at least affirmed the Jiang family's idea. Because when he was outside the real fairyland, the elder of the Jiang family once threw an olive branch to him, but Chen Daoxian refused. The Chen family formed an alliance with the Jiang family and could only become a vassal. Moreover, Chen Daoxian felt that the Jiang family had great ambitions. The surface is to form an alliance with the Chen family, but in fact it is plotting Zhangzhou. In fact, the ambition is big, but Chen Daoxian thinks it's nothing, because his ambition may be even greater. Chen Daoxian wants to become immortal. In this world of immortal cultivation, where no one has been robbed for hundreds of thousands of years, this kind of ambition can be said to break through the sky. With the current resources of this world, if you want to support a Mahayana true immortal, you might have to use the power of the whole world to do it. Chapter 289. Coming. Chen Daoxian raised his head and looked at the black thundercloud dozens of miles away. Vaguely. A young Taoist man with silver hair and white clothes, standing alone under the thundercloud, looked particularly abrupt. This person is Zhou Mingho, the ancestor of the Zhou family. Finally, after a period of brewing, the thundercloud pierced through the air and formed a terrifying pillar of thunder, covering Zhou Mingho's body. Too horrible. Beside Chen Daoxian, a look of fear appeared on Luo Liqiu's face. Chen Daoxian explained softly, there are 3 levels of Jindan thunder tribulation, and this is only the first layer of physical calamity. Usually, a cultivator's body refinement reaches the peak derived from flesh and blood, and he can withstand it, and he will also be quenched in this heavy thunder tribulation. Refinement is enhanced. It is for this reason that many Jindan cultivators have broken through to the state of being reborn from a broken skull after experiencing the thunder calamity. He paused. Compared to the calamity of the body, the next calamity of mana, especially the calamity of the soul, is the most terrifying. When the monks reach the golden core stage, they must condense into a golden core in the purple mansion. And the soul will be further cultivated in this golden pill, waiting for the moment when the pill is broken into a baby. But before that, divine soul needs to go through the last heavy golden core thunder tribulation in order to grasp the vitality of turning into nascent soul. The golden core thunder tribulation is both a catastrophe and an opportunity. Although Chen Daoxian was explaining the way of cultivation to Luo Li and the cultivators of the Chen family, everyone around him heard it, including Jiang Zui and Qi Guangxiao. Jiang Zui sincerely praised, Chen Daoyu deserves to have the strength of the top 3 in the Zifu Tianjiao list, and he has a very thorough understanding of the way of Jindan cultivation. Jiang Zhenjin is wrong. Chen Daoxian bowed his hands slightly. Jiang Zui smiled and said, Chen Daoyu just said that the golden core thunder tribulation is both catastrophe and vitality, but he has a profound understanding of thunder tribulation. Many cultivators of Zifu are terrified of the golden core thunder tribulation, but they don't know that without this golden core thunder tribulation, without igniting the vitality of the soul in the golden core, it is almost impossible to go further in the future, all around. Everyone silently savored the words of the two. Some people frowned and thought, while others looked like they had gained something. A long time. When everyone figured out the key, they bowed their hands to Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zhu. Thank you Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zhenren for your advice. Chen Daoxian bowed his hands towards everyone in return. After Lei Yun dropped 2 thunderbolts in a row, the third thunder calamity had been brewing for an extraordinarily long time. So much so that everyone present held their breath. Finally, a black thunder struck straight down. This time. After all, Zhou Mingho did not block it, and was directly penetrated to the ground by the black thunder pillar. Everyone went up to the sky and looked down. A bottomless circular pothole appeared on a mountain peak. Around the pothole, there were faint crystals that melted at high temperature. The triple thunder robbery passed. The thundercloud dissipated immediately, and the sun shone on the earth again. It was only then that everyone noticed that the mountain where Zhou Mingho crossed the tribulation was cut off by dozens of feet out of thin air. See this scene. Most of the Zifu cultivators present had a heavy heart. When the cultivation has reached the Zifu period, which cultivator dares to say that he has no idea about breaking through the Jindan period? But seeing this terrifying golden core thunder tribulation, everyone's confidence in overcoming the calamity was hit. Patriarch. The thunder cloud dissipated, and Zhou Mubai was the first to charge towards the deep pit on the mountain. He could feel a faint breath in the deep pit. If it is not wrong, it is the breath of the Patriarch. I didn't expect that Senior Zhou Mingho actually succeeded. Chen Daoxian murmured, let's go too. Lori nodded. Chen Fusheng and the others followed closely behind, flying towards the mountain where Zhou Mingho had crossed the calamity. The rest of the Zifu monks followed suit. Jiang Zui and Qi Guangxiao looked at each other and flew over. A long time. With the support of Zhou Mubai, a figure slowly flew out of a deep pit. It was Zhou Mingho who had successfully survived the calamity. It's just that Zhou Mingho's condition is not good at the moment. Although the last calamity of the soul has been passed, it has also caused his soul to suffer serious injuries. It takes a while to fully recover. Congratulations to Senior Zhou for successfully transcending the calamity and attaining the fruit of the real Tao. Congratulations Senior Zhou. Congratulations. Zhangzhou cultivators stepped forward to congratulate Zhou Mingho. Zhou Mingho forcibly endured the severe pain in his soul, and returned the salute to everyone with a smile. He did not feel arrogant because he succeeded in transcending the calamity and became a new Jindan real person. Fellow Daoist Zhou, congratulations. Jiang Zui also bowed to Zhou Mingho at this time. Qi Guangxiao on the side was not to be outdone, and quickly surrendered to Zhou Mingho. Zhou Mingho also politely smiled and said, Zhou Mao is not able to meet the two seniors in person, and I hope to forgive him. Where, Qi Guangxiao waved his hand and laughed, young Daoist Zhou is too polite. Yes, Jiang Zhu smiled and said, since Daoyu Zhou succeeded in transcending the calamity, he will be a fellow person from now on. There is no need for seniors to say, just use the name of Daoyu. Then, Daoyu Jiang, Daoyu Qi, Zhou Mao greeted the two of you. Ha ha ha. Fellow Daoist. Everyone cheered and cheered. At this moment, the Zhou family's momentum in Zhangzhou had undoubtedly reached its peak. After all, this is the first Jindan cultivator from Zhangzhou. Although Zhou Mingho's strength at the moment is not necessarily as strong as Zhou Mubai's, but for Zhangzhou scattered cultivators, Jindan cultivator speaks out, no matter how louder than Zhou Mubai's reputation as a Zifu cultivator. Even Zhou Mubai is the arrogant Zifu on the Zifu Tianjiao list. After Zhou Mingho greeted everyone, he immediately cupped his hands and said, although Zhou has survived the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, he still suffers from serious injuries and needs to retreat for a period of time. Please also ask Zhou to be unable to take care of you. Where is Senior Zhou? It should be. The cultivators waved their hands one after another, as if they understood. Seeing this, Zhou Mingho nodded towards Zhou Mubai and flew towards another mountain peak of Tongtian Peak. Zhou Mingho stretched out his hand to invite everyone. Everyone, my Zhou family has prepared a banquet for you, and I would like to invite all of you to take a ride and appreciate the light. Good talk, good talk. Brother Zhou, you're welcome. Say it. The crowd followed Zhou Mubai and flew towards the welcoming hall of Tongtian Peak. Really? Only Zhou Mingho's kung fu to overcome tribulation. The Zhou family had already arranged a banquet in the welcoming hall, and once Zhou Mingho succeeded in transcending the calamity, they would immediately hold a banquet to celebrate. Although this operation of the Zhou family is risky, the effect has undoubtedly reached its peak. Banquet room. Everyone gave the Zhou family a thumbs up and praised him as the #1 clan in Cangzhou. Although Zhou Mubai did not dare to say anything, the smile in his eyes could hardly be concealed. This moment. He couldn't help but feel grateful for the patriarch's adventure. Although Zhou Mingho succeeded in transcending the calamity, inviting the Cangzhou channel would also increase the influence of the Zhou family. But what is more than the shock of crossing the robbery in front of so many Zifu cultivators in Cangzhou? If not, no one would agree with the Zhou family so much. Zhou Mingho succeeded in transcending the calamity, and the strength of the Zhou family greatly increased. And the prestige of the family is accumulated bit by bit like this. If it is said that Chen Daoxian turned the tide in Cangzhou Xianqing at the beginning, it was a wave of prestige for the Chen family. This time Zhou Mingho crossed the calamity in public, and he also gained a wave of prestige for the Zhou family. Whether it is for the Zhou family or the Chen family. To become the #1 clan in Cangzhou, although strength is fundamental, unless the Chen and Zhou families have absolute strength like the Jiang family and the Ji family, the role of prestige cannot be ignored. The Yi family in Cangzhou is a typical example of this. In terms of strength, the Yi family was no worse than the Zhou family at this time, but each family in Cangzhou sold the Yi family a little bit of face. After some noise, the banquet was dispersed. The cultivators rushed back to the residence of the Yingbin Hall to rest, preparing to resign to the Zhou family on another day. Just when the Chen family members just returned to the residence of Lingfu, 3 escaped lights flew towards the Lingfu where the Chen family lived. These 3 escapes were careless and did not cover up in the slightest. They were the 7th elder of the Jiang family, Jiang Zui, and the 2 cultivators of the Jiang family, Jiang Chenyan and Jiang Chenai. Friend Chen. Outside the Lingfu, Jiang Zhu once bowed to Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian froze in the air, turned around and said, "I don't know if Jiang Zhenjin is here, what's the matter?" Jiang Zui smiled and glanced at Lingfu, but said nothing. Indulge for a moment. Chen Daoxian said, "It's rude, Jiang Zhenren please." Jiang Zui smiled and nodded. Entering the Lingfu, and telling everyone to retreat, Chen Daoxian met the 3 Jiang family alone. He dared to meet the 3 Jiang family alone. Apart from the fact that this is the Zhou family land and the outside world is full of Cangzhou cultivators, there is another reason, that is, Chen Daoxian is bold. With the 4th order high-grade power spirit armor by his side, Chen Daoxian is now feeling overwhelmed with security. A mere cultivator in the late stage of Jindan, he was confident that the other party could not even break the defense of his spiritual armor. But Jiang Zui didn't know this. He saw that Chen Daoxian was only at the 9th floor of Zifu, so he dared to see him alone, and he also admired Chen Daoxian's courage. "Let me introduce you to fellow Daoist Chen. This is my Daozi from the Jiang family, Jiang Chenai. You have already met in the true immortal origin realm. This is the arrogant daughter of my Jiang family, Jiang Chenyan." Chen Daoxian nodded towards the 2 of them. "Jiang Zhenren, if you have something to say, you may speak bluntly." Jiang Zhu nodded, "Okay, Daoyu Chen speaks quickly." He paused, "My Jiang family wants to marry the Chen family and form an alliance of attacking and defending together, really?" Chen Daoxian secretly said in his heart. But he said, "The Jiang family is very powerful. I have a Zifu family in the Chen family district. How can he be an ally with your Jiang family?" "Friend Chen, you can't say that." Jiang Zui smiled and said, although your Chen family is not as strong as my Jiang family, you are definitely a newcomer in Cangzhou. In the future, it will only take time to become the #1 family in Cangzhou. Is it true that Jiang Zhenren remembered wrongly? The largest clan in Cangzhou should be the Zhou clan of the newly promoted Jindan clan. What does it have to do with my Chen clan? What is the truth? I think fellow Daoist Chen knows it better than me. Jiang Zhu said, for this marriage, my Jiang family is very sincere, and it depends on how Dao Yuchen chooses, talking. In front of Chen Daoxian, Jiang Zui took out a purple glowing third-order high-grade spirit armor from the storage bag, Zine armor. Seeing this third-order spirit armor, Chen Daoxian's expression did not change at all. Just when he felt that the Jiang family was stingy, Jiang Zui took out a piece of jade slip and threw it over gently. Chen Daoxian took the jade slip, his consciousness swept away, and his complexion changed drastically. The third-order spirit armor refining method. Exactly. Jiang Zui smiled and said, how about this thing as a gift for the alliance between my two families? With that said, Jiang Zhu glanced at Jiang Chenyan. Jiang Chenyan understood, moved the lotus step lightly, took a step forward, and after a blessing, said softly and weakly, could it be that Chen Gongzi dislikes the appearance of the slave family Pulu? At this moment, the benefits that Mei Sei and any Zifu family could not refuse were placed in front of Chen Daoxian. Chapter 290. Facing Jiang Shenyan's scratching, Chen Daoxian didn't even lift his eyelids. On the contrary, the refining method of the third-order high-grade spiritual armor, the purpline armor, made Chen Daoxian's heart move for a moment. But it was only a moment. Chen Daoxian reacted instantly, this is a poisonous bait. Not to mention that the Chen family already has the second-order power spirit armor refining method, and the demand for third-order spirit armor is not so strong for the time being. Even if the Chen family obtained the refining method of Zine armor, almost all of them were controlled by the Chen Yuan sword sect and the Yuanian clan due to the mining rights of the Zine spirit mine. With the methods of the Jiang family, if the Chen family wanted to refine the purple armor, they had to be controlled by their Jiang family. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian once again firmed up his original thoughts. Seeing that Chen Daoxian was still indifferent, Jiang Zhu said calmly, Dao Yuchen should have heard about the Qi family in Yuzhou, right? I heard something. Chen Daoxian thought for a while and nodded. The Qi family in Yuzhou, like my Jiang family, used to be the Yuanian family of Wan Xinghai, but just because they sought greater development and interests, they were beaten by the Chen Yuan sword sect. How unfair. Jiang Zui said indifferently, Dao Yuchen has an amazing talent. In less than 30 years of cultivation, you have reached the 9th level of Zifu. With your talent, it is very likely that you will become a nascent soul monk in the future. I take the liberty to ask, Dao Yuchen, do you want to stop at the nascent soul stage in the future? Hearing this, Dao Yuchen frowned slightly. Jiang Zui's remarks can be said to be quite explicit, and he almost didn't engrave the words, rebellion, on his forehead. What happened to the Qi family, the scattered cultivators and the small family may not know much, but the immortal cultivators of Wan Xinghai know it well. The Qi family violated the rules set by Chenyuan Jianzong, and they had long been unwilling to serve, otherwise Chenyuan Jianzong would not waste such great efforts to destroy the Qi family. And now, the Jiang family and the Qi family are doing the same thing, so to speak. Dao Yuchen was slightly shocked. Seeing Chen Daoxian's complexion changing slightly, Jiang Zui thought that his persuasion was effective, and quickly hit the railway while it was hot. But you don't have to worry about Chen Daoyu. The disaster of the Qi family seems to be Chenyuan Jianzong's stabilization of his own rule on the surface, but it has lost the hearts and minds of all the Yuanian family. He whispered, one Yuanian family may not be able to shake the dominance of Chenyuan Jianzong, how about 10? Oh? Since your Jiang family has so many allies, why bother holding on to my little Chen family? Chen Daoxian shot Chen Fusheng, who was wearing the third-order spirit armor, into the air with a random sword. He shook his head and said, melee combat is different from Yujian's long-range attack. You have to follow your heart with your sword, and your heart will come to your sword. Think carefully about how you feel when you use your sword. Yes. Chen Fusheng got up from the other end of the sword field and nodded. Boom. Chen Fusheng was knocked into the air again. Boom. Boom. As Chen Fusheng was ravaged time and time again, his melee skills were improving visibly. There are tens of thousands of monks in the Chen family, and Chen Fusheng can stand out from so many monks, not entirely relying on Chen Daoxuan's preaching. In fact, Chen Fusheng himself is very talented. This, Chen Daoxian knew when he first discovered his kendo seedling. What is even more commendable is that Chen Fusheng knew the truth of not being arrogant or impetuous and practicing hard at a young age. Spiritual roots, comprehension and other talents are important, but as Chen Daoxuan's cultivation level deepens, he finds that Dao Xian is equally important, and even more important sometimes. Boom! With a random sword, Chen Fusheng flew out again. Fortunately, there is a third-order spirit armor body. Even if Chen Daoxian didn't spare much effort in this sword, Chen Fusheng just felt that his chest was hit hard, and it was not a big problem. Just when Chen Daoxian wanted to continue teaching, he suddenly stopped. You practice on your own, it'll go out. With that said, he flew out of the Lingjian cave. Chen Fusheng immediately felt bad, and immediately followed behind Chen Daoxian and flew out together. Dao Yuchen stared. What are you doing here? Chen Fusheng pursed his lips and said nothing. Outside the spirit ship, a cyan-colored, slender spirit boat lay in front of the Chen family's large spirit boat. On the blue spirit boat, a silver-haired old man flew out slowly. Seeing the person in front of him, Chen Daoxuan's heart gradually sank. Fellow Daoist Chen, how are you thinking about it? Chen Daoxian narrowed his eyes slightly. What? I didn't promise you the Jiang family, and you, Jiang Zhenren, still want to bully the younger. Can't you force me to promise? Jiang Zui shook his head. The old man is not very satisfied with this answer. Please think about it again. Chapter 291, High in the Air. Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zhu looked at each other across the air, and an invisible momentum stirred between them. Gudong. Aside, Chen Fusheng was oppressed by this terrifying momentum and swallowed his saliva unconsciously. Chen Daoxian sneered, How Shofu, dare to try Cangzhou. Hearing this, Jiang Zhu's face trembled slightly and raised his head. Is this your answer? Chen Daoxian spoke again, opened his mouth and spit. Feishue Qingying, two swords spurted out, and then white light flashed, and the whole body was wrapped in cyan spirit armor. 4th level high-grade spirit armor. Jiang Zui's pupils condensed slightly. Is this your confidence in resisting this old man? However, Chen Daoxian had no interest in nonsense at all, and immediately joined his sword and flickered towards Jiang Zui. Okay, so fast. Chen Fusheng in the back was stunned when he saw this scene. During this time, Chen Daoxian has been instructing him in melee combat skills, but he has not been able to master the skills of swords and skills in melee combat. In this way, even if his body refinement has reached the realm of derivation from flesh and blood, his strength in close combat is not as good as that of the long-range Yujin. But close combat skills are the key to exerting the supernatural power of 3 heads and 6 arms, and Chen Fusheng had to learn it. Originally, he thought that being able to read the sword in melee combat was already a very high level of melee combat, but when he saw Chen Daoxuan's melee skills, he realized that reading the sword was probably just an introduction to melee skills. Front. When Jiang Zhu saw Chen Daoxian coming with his sword, he immediately sneered in his heart, melee combat? You probably don't know that a cultivator can only have the confidence to melee combat when he reaches the golden core stage. Thoughts flashed in his heart. Jiang Zui's movements were not slow. He slapped the storage bag at his waist, and the 4th order high-grade flying sword that also glowed with aura only slammed into Chen Daoxuan's face. Although his melee combat strength is not weak, he still did not choose to melee Chen Daoxian, but cautiously chose Yu Jian to attack. After all, his cultivation base and the realm of the avenue are all above Chen Daoxian. Since he can be crushed dignifiedly, there is no need to entangle with Chen Daoxian in melee combat. However, clang! Jiang Zui's flying sword was directly hit by Chen Daoxuan's double sword, and it flew out. Chen Daoxuan's light flashed, and he could clearly see the shocked face of the other party. Die! A mysterious wave erupted on the flying snow sword. This sword, with the spatial sword meaning as bone and the Siyu sword meaning as flesh and blood, suddenly erupted with an attacking power no less than that of a mid-level Jindan cultivator. From a distance, Jiang Chenai saw this sword, and his right hand trembled uncontrollably. How can he be so strong? How can he be so strong? Jiang Chenai murmured. He found that compared with the last time he saw Chen Daoxian in the real fairyland, the current Chen Daoxian is stronger. Back then in the true immortal origin realm, Chen Daoxian didn't use his 6 arms to strike together, and the strongest power erupted from each sword was only equivalent to the level of an ordinary Jindan early-stage cultivator, and would definitely not reach the level of a middle-stage Jindan cultivator. You know, this is the level of strength that Fairy Qiyao only has. That is to say, the current Chen Daoxuan's attack power is on a par with the original Fairy Qiyao. Obviously, the realm of Kendo is only the 3rd level, and the lack of ability is comparable to Fairy Qiyao in the 4th level, which shows that the power of the sword art created by Chen Daoxian is particularly suitable for his own Kendo. Generally speaking, Zifu Jianqiu creates his own sword art, and he tailors a set of sword art for his own swordsmanship, in order to exert his own swordsmanship strength as much as possible. For example, Zhou Mubai, before he created his own sword art, his strength was comparable to Henry Zhang. After creating the Qinglian sword art, Zhou Mubai's strength improved by leaps and bounds, directly surpassing Henry Zhang's 1 level, reaching the top 10 of the Zifu Tianjiao list. The same is true for Chen Daoxian. After breaking through the Purple Palace period and reaching the 3rd level of Space Sword Intent, he still dared not say that he would definitely defeat Zhou Mubai. Only after using the Dao deriving function to deduce a sword technique that fits his Space Sword Intent and Siyu Sword Intent, does his strength officially surpass Zhou Mubai and reach a higher level, only 1 line weaker than Fairy Qiyao. But now, as he broke through to the Zifu period for longer and longer, the Zifu level mana has been continuously tempered by the triple Space Sword Will and the Silk Rain Sword, and has gradually tended to the limit state of the Zifu mana. Chen Daoxuan's strength skyrocketed again. Because basic Qi refining and body refining cultivation are the foundation of strength. As Chen Daoxuan's basic mana increases, his strength will naturally rise. Coupled with the soul-defining light and the 4th-order high-grade spirit armor, now he dares to say that his strength has truly reached the top of the Zifu Tianjiao list. Even if Fairy Qiyao has not broken through, her strength should be slightly weaker than him. Of course, once Fairy Qiyao breaks through to the Golden Core stage, with the inspiration after breaking through the cultivation base, the Dao realm will definitely go further. Then, the middle and even higher Dao realms of the 4th realm will definitely temper Fairy Qiyao's mana to a terrifying level. Just like Chen Daoxuan's strength skyrocketed after he broke through from the Qi refining period to the foundation building period. If he encounters Fairy Qiyao after breaking through the Golden Core stage, Chen Daoxian can only be passively beaten by relying on the defensive power of the 4th-order high-grade power spirit armor. But obviously, the 7th elder of the Jiang family is far less powerful than Fairy Qiyao after breaking through to the Golden Core stage. What? Is this the strength of the Jiang family's Golden Core in the later stage? After Chen Daoxian shot and intercepted his flying sword with 2 swords, he was completely entangled with Jiang Zui. To Chen Daoxuan's surprise, the 7th elder of the Jiang family was not as powerful as rumored to be. The outside world said that the 7th elder of the Jiang family was only a thin line away from the nascent soul stage, and that he was the top real person of Jindan. Now it seems that it is completely nonsense. If I had to use one word to describe it, it would be in vain. Did you know? I was really stunned by you. The so-called Jiang family's strongest golden pill is this level? Chen Daoxian attacked and verbally harassed. Being pressed by a cultivator of the Purple Mansion, Jiang Zui's ashamed face could ooze blood. He knew that Chen Daoxian was just trying to stimulate him so that he could reveal his flaws and defeat him in one fell swoop. To kill him, Chen Daoxian probably doesn't have this strength, and he has a 4th-order high-grade spirit armor by his side. As long as he is not determined to fight with Chen Daoxian to the end, he can retreat at any time if he wants to leave. However, he was a dignified cultivator of the late Jindan stage, and was defeated by a cultivator of the Purple House such as Chen Daoxian and fled, and spread it out. Not only did he lose his face, but even the Jiang family would be humiliated. Thinking of this, Jiang Zui was also completely ruthless. He stopped defending, and exchanged attack with Chen Daoxian, and Jian Jian greeted Chen Daoxuan's weak armor. However, compared to Jiang Zui, Chen Daoxian, who had undergone the training of Taoist priests in white in the Wan Xinghai inheritance trial, is much stronger. He easily avoided the clumsy and unusual attack in his eyes, and slashed at Jiang Zui's spirit armor joint with a few swords, causing the opponent's figure to stagger. No, it can't go on like this. Jiang Zui was completely anxious. I am not good at melee combat, and this kid seems to be particularly good at melee combat. For every sword I attacked him, although the power can reach the late stage of Jindan, most of them are avoided by this kid, or he uses 2 immortal swords to remove the power, which can't threaten him at all. This boy from the Chen family seems to be able to see through my attack. Suddenly, Jiang Zhu thought of the legendary melee skills. Could it be Chen Daoxian, this kid, has reached the level of predicting the enemy's opportunities. However, how could this kind of melee skills be mastered by a cultivator of the Zifu period? In today's immortal cultivation world, low-level monks generally don't pay attention to body training, so their melee skills are extremely weak. After the cultivator broke through to the Golden Core stage, due to the tempering of the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, the body-refining cultivation base can quickly reach the realm of skull-shattering rebirth. When the body training has reached this level, Jindan cultivators will naturally not waste this body training, so they have started to study melee skills. This is why Jiang Zui said that the Jindan cultivator has the confidence to fight in close combat. Because the body of the cultivator of the Zifu period is too weak, he usually never thinks of using melee combat to fight the enemy. But this rule is obviously not suitable for a freak like Chen Daoxian. That's right, in Jiang Zu's eyes, Chen Daoxian is a freak. Obviously only the Zifu cultivation base, but the melee skills are stronger than most Jindan cultivators. It's careless. Jiang Zui was quite annoyed. If he knew that Chen Daoxian was so strong in melee combat, he would not be close to him. But now, being pressed by Chen Daoxian with a hammer, it is too late to say anything. As Jiang Zui's attack rhythm was interrupted by Chen Daoxian, there were more and more sword marks on his spirit armor. Although the defense of the Fourth Order spirit armor could not be broken for a while, Jiang Zui might not be able to consume Chen Daoxian if it was consumed like this. Chen Daoxian has a 4th-grade fortune-telling White Lotus by his side, and in terms of consumption, unless the Yuanying Zhenjuan comes in person, the mere cultivator of the late Jindan period will really not be able to consume him. No, I have to distance myself from him again and use my best soul attack. Jiang Zui secretly said. He was known as the Jindan cultivator who was closest to the nascent soul from the Jiang family. Naturally, he would not be so weak that he was pressed and beaten by the Zifu cultivator. In fact, Jiang Zui's strength is 90% above the soul attack. But under Chen Daoxuan's melee attack, one after another sword light was like the water of the 9 heaven Xuanhe, and it was endless. Jiang Zui couldn't even use his hands to perform a divine attack. In other words, he is now stuck by Chen Daoxian and can't get rid of it. Unless Jiang Zui was single-minded, and a sword forced Chen Daoxian back slightly. Before Chen Daoxian could bully him again, he opened his mouth and spit out a thunderball shining with lightning. Thunder Tribulation Pearl. Chen Daoxian recognized the origin of the object at a glance. Without saying a word, he quickly staggered his swords and spread his arms to protect his head. Just when he made this move, the terrifying power of thunder in the Thunder Tribulation bead exploded instantly. Boom! A terrifying giant purple thunderball exploded between Chen Daoxian and Jiang Zui. Immediately afterwards, the two figures were violently pushed away by the huge shock wave at the same time. When Chen Daoxian regained control of his figure, he found that he had been blown away by the lightning ball for dozens of miles. With his escaping speed, he could reach it in just a few breaths, but Jiang Zui would obviously not give him this chance again. Jiang Zui was shocked when he saw that Chen Daoxian was forcibly hit by Lei Jieju, but he was unscathed. He nodded. I said, why you are not interested in the third-order spirit armor, there are better ones, but unfortunately the spirit armor can prevent ordinary attacks, but it can't stop the soul attack, go to hell. Jiang Zui showed pleasure in his eyes, opened his mouth and spat out a guqin. This guqin is long in the wind, and in a blink of an eye, it is in front of Jiang Zui. Jiang Zui caressed the surface of the qin with both hands, looked at Chen Daoxian, and said, this qin is called Tianin, and it is not worth your while to die under Tianin. Absolute talent. Even Jiang Zui had to admit that it was an appalling thing for a mere cultivator of the Purple Mansion to be able to press himself to fight. But after today, this matter will no longer be known. At this moment, Jiang Zui even murdered the Jiang family behind him. As the strongest Jindan cultivator in the Jiang family, he is almost the most powerful person except for the three nascent soul true monarchs of the Jiang family. But today, being forced to this point by a cultivator of the Purple House, it can be said to be disgraced to the extreme. If today's incident spreads, Jiang Zui will completely become a laughing stock among the high-ranking cultivators. This kind of thing, he will never allow it to happen. There is no Jindan cultivator who is willing to become the foothold of Zifu Tianjiu's fame. Even if this Zifu cultivator has the strength of number 1 on the Zifu Tianjiao list. After Jiang Zui, Jiang Chenai was sweating profusely at the moment. He regretted it very much. Why did he come to Cangzhou with the seventh uncle this time? Although he was the Daozi of the Jiang family, his status in the Jiang family was undoubtedly comparable to that of Jiang Zui. A world of difference. Jiang Chenai saw the ugliness of the seventh uncle at this time, and it was conceivable that he would inevitably be disgusted by the seventh uncle. If seventh uncle's mind was a little darker. Jiang Chenai simply didn't dare to think further. At this moment, he only hoped that the seventh uncle would kill Chen Daoxian, completely let out his vicious anger, and no longer come to trouble him. At this moment, Jiang Chenai finally realized that, compared with the so-called background and potential, only the strength that is actually mastered is the most stable. There has never been a moment when Jiang Chenai hated himself for being weak so much. Far away. Jiang Zui glanced at Chen Daoxian and fiddled with the strings lightly. The next moment, an invisible wave hit the soul in Chen Daoxian's Z mansion at a speed comparable to teleportation. Boom! A loud bang resembling a big bell broke out in Chen Daoxian's soul, wanting to tear his soul to pieces. Despite possessing the Sea of Divine Light, Chen Daoxian's soul and consciousness far surpassed that of ordinary Zifu cultivators. But in the face of Jiang Zui's terrifying soul attack, Chen Daoxian couldn't resist at all. Just when he thought that his soul was about to shatter and die, the golden scriptures in the Sea of Consciousness shook gently, and the voice of Hongzhong Dalu in the soul disappeared instantly. In the outside world, Chen Daoxian's performance was a little stunned, and then he watched Jiang Zui play the piano as if nothing had happened. Are you all right? Jiang Zui was a little unbelievable, but he immediately remembered something and said in shock, the Divine Soul Defense Magic Weapon, you have the Divine Soul Defense Magic Weapon. He looked at Chen Daoxian with complicated eyes, which was comparable to the attacking power of a mid-level Jindan cultivator, a fourth-order high-grade spirit armor, and a spiritual defense weapon. Jiang Zui discovered that Chen Daoxian was quite powerful even among the Jindan cultivators, not to mention the cultivators of the same rank. More importantly, the opponent restrained him in all directions. Having lost the means to attack by the soul, Jiang Zui's whole body strength immediately went to 90%. Thinking of this, how could he dare to continue to entangle with Chen Daoxian? 7017K. Chapter 292. The Cyan spirit boat escaped extremely fast, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. On the blue spirit boat, Jiang Chenai looked at the gloomy seventh elder and felt a little uneasy in his heart. Today's event. Seventh uncle, we didn't see anything today. That's right, we didn't see anything. The crowd joined together. Jiang Zui took a deep breath and sighed, forget it, if you lose, you lose. He knew that even if the Jiang family didn't say it, so many people in the Chen family had witnessed this battle. How could the Chen family miss the opportunity to publicize this kind of thing that greatly increased the Chen family's reputation? It's just a self-deception idea to shut up the Jiang family present. Seeing Jiang Zui's tone, everyone immediately dared not answer. The other side. Chen Fusheng and others felt unreal when they saw Chen Daoxian defeating the most powerful Jindan real person in the Jiang family in a head-to-head battle. The speed at which Chen Daoxian's strength increased was too fast. Chen Fusheng remembered that before entering the true immortal origin realm, the strength shown by the young patriarch to the outside world was only comparable to that of the ordinary purple mansion. However, in less than a year, Chen Daoxian was able to defeat a late Jindan cultivator head-on. Chen Fusheng had never even heard of such a terrifying increase in strength, let alone seeing it with his own eyes. It is said that the Hall Master of Zhenhai Palace is the most enchanting disciple since Chenyuan Zhenzong was founded, but Chen Fusheng felt that it was probably this true monarch nascent soul, and he did not have such an exaggerated speed of progress as his own young patriarch. Dao Xian. 100 miles away, Luo Li saw that Jiang Zhu fled as soon as he was defeated, and hurriedly flew towards Chen Daoxian with the escape light. The Chen family's large-scale spirit ship was about 100 miles away from the center of the battle between the two, and the two were also determined to avoid their respective spirit boats, so neither the Jiang family spectators nor the Chen family spectators would be able to do so. How many battles were involved? Otherwise, the aftermath of this level of battle, not to mention the fall of the Zifu cultivator, and the slight injury to the opponent would be no problem. Seeing Dao Lv flying towards him, Chen Daoxian stretched out his hand to stop Luo Li's slender waist, feeling the other person's trembling body, and said softly, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Luo Li responded, but her delicate body was still trembling, and she was afraid. Although she has never seen the horror of Jindan Jinren, there are still records of this aspect in the clan. Normally, it would be quite difficult for a Zifu cultivator not to mention defeating Jindan Jinren, but to save his life in the hands of Jindan Jinren. However, Chen Daoxian not only saved his life in the hands of Jiang Zui, a late Jindan cultivator, but also defeated the opponent in a frontal photo battle. Whether it was Luo Li or Chen Fusheng, he could see that Jiang Zui was not Chen Daoxian's opponent. Continue to consume. With the terrifying mana stored by the 4th grade Good Fortune White Lotus, Jiang Zui may really fall into the hands of Chen Daoxian. As the core descendant of the Chen family, Chen Fusheng naturally knew the power of the Chen family's unique magic weapon to create the White Lotus. Seeing Chen Fusheng and others bowing their heads and bowing to the side, Luo Li blushed and broke free from Chen Daoxian's embrace. Fusheng. Young patriarch. Only then did Chen Fusheng raise his head, looking at Chen Daoxian eagerly, the look of reverence in his eyes lingering. After this battle, the prestige of my Chen family will surely resound throughout the entire Wangxinghai, and the cultivator of the Zifu defeated Jiang Zui. This kind of top Jindan real person, the entire Wangxinghai has never had such a record. Seeing that Chen Daoxian was a blockbuster, Chen Fusheng was happier than he had beaten Jiang Zui. But Chen Daoxian shook his head. This matter must be kept secret, and there is no need to publicize it. Hearing this, Chen Fusheng was shocked, but this is a great opportunity for my Chen family's reputation to skyrocket. Chen Daoxian glanced at him, and Chen Fusheng hurriedly lowered his head, follow the decree of the young patriarch. Chen Daoxian didn't want to disclose this battle to the outside world. Naturally, the Chen family was not ready to set foot on the wider stage of Wangxinghai. The current Chen family, even if he is a Zifu cultivator who is comparable to Jindan real person, and more than 400 ordinary Zifu cultivators, can only compete with the stronger Jindan family in terms of strength. It is far from being on a par with the nascent soul family like Taizhou Jiang family and Jingzhou Ji family. In addition, Chen Daoxian's strength is not as strong as he has shown. He can defeat Jiang Zui, which does not mean that he is really stronger than the top Jindan real person. It's just that Jiang Zui is not good at melee combat, but he is good at soul attack. He was just restrained by him, which allowed Chen Daoxian to win in one fell swoop. In exchange for another top-level Jindan real person who is good at melee combat, Chen Daoxian is definitely not an opponent, and it is not bad to be able to rely on the 4th order high-grade spirit armor on his body to save his life. This is also an important reason why Chen Daoxian did not let Chen Fusheng reveal the battle. Chen Daoxian was not as strong as Chen Fusheng had seen. He was able to beat Jiang Zui more because of a clever trick, not because his real hard power surpassed the opponent. But all this, Chen Fusheng didn't know. He only saw Chen Daoxian beat Jiang Zui and fled. He couldn't even see the details of the fight between the two. After all, whether it is Chen Daoxian or Jiang Zui, the speed between the two of them is too fast. 3 hours later, a large spirit ship is docked at the port of Guanhai Xiancheng. The Chen family jumped out of the spirit ship and flew towards the Chen family's Shuanghu Island. When crossing the Guanhai Xiancheng from a high altitude, Chen Daoxian's spiritual sense swept across the Xiancheng slightly, and he couldn't help but let out a light sigh. "What's up?" Luo Li looked at Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian shook his head and smiled. "It's nothing, I found something interesting." Nie Zhong was the first group of loose cultivators in Guanhai Xiancheng. He was a member of the monks' army when the Guang'an Prefecture Western Allied Army had not been disbanded. Later, with the destruction of the Corpse Tide, the major clans in Zhangzhou would naturally not maintain a huge number of coalition forces. After all, every day the coalition forces existed, the various consumption of military salaries was an astronomical figure. For a long time, no one can bear it. As a result, the Zhangzhou Allied Army began to disband, and the Guang'an Prefecture West Allied Army was also one of the Zhangzhou Allied forces, and was naturally disbanded by the Chen family. As a member of the Western Union Army, Nie Zhong has since retired to become a loose cultivator. To be honest, when he first retired, Nie Zhong was not unhappy at all, but very happy. Because compared with other loose cultivators, Nie Zhong is a spiritual planter with considerable planting experience. Although his spiritual planting level was not enough for him to grow precious elixir, it was not difficult for Nie Zhong to grow first-order spiritual corn. In addition, the Lingdao near Guanhai Xiancheng is absorbing Lingji husband. Nie Zhong also pushed the boat and stayed in Guanhai Xiancheng. Less than a year. Nie Zhong achieved a surplus of spirit stone coins by relying on his own spirit planting technology. In 1 year, Nie Zhong made a profit of 297 spirit stones from the 100 acres of spirit fields he was in charge of. This level of income is already quite high. You must know that the average member of the Zhou family patrol team only has 500 spiritual stones a year. And the income of the members of the Zhou family patrol team is definitely a high income among the cultivators of the same rank in the Zhou family. This shows how exaggerated Nie Zhong's income is. After cultivating the spiritual field for several years, Nie Zhong, with the help of a large number of spiritual stones, made rapid progress in his cultivation and quickly reached the 9th level of qi refining. The cultivation base has reached the 9th level of qi refining, and the next thing to consider is naturally the matter of foundation building. Once you become a foundation establishment cultivator, in addition to being able to improve your status in the immortal cultivation world, more importantly, a foundation establishment cultivator has 200 years of lifespan. Longevity and long-term vision are the biggest motivation for monks to practice. Foundation building is naturally a gratifying thing, but for loose cultivators, foundation building is not that simple. This kind of foundation pill, from refining its elixir, to refining techniques, to qualified alchemists, under the restrictions of layers and layers of thresholds, it is destined that loose cultivators can only obtain this kind of spirit through purchase. Dan. If you want to refine it yourself, it is too difficult for a loose cultivator. Of course, such a thing as a foundation pill, a new big family like the Chen family, is naturally capable of refining. In fact, today's Chen family can not only refine second-order spiritual pills such as the foundation pill, they can even do large-scale refining. In Zhangzhou, more than 80% of the market for foundation pills was eaten by the Chen family, almost monopolizing the market for foundation pills. The Chen family's monopoly on the Zhangzhou elixir market is not only reflected in the foundation pill, but most of the first and second-order elixir are now monopolized by the Chen family. Only the third-order and higher elixir, the Chen family did not get involved much. However, Although the price of third-order elixir is high, in terms of market size, it is not necessarily comparable to first and second-order elixir. Because the users of the first-order and second-order spiritual pills are the cultivators in the Qi refining period and the foundation building period. The monks of these two types of cultivation make up the largest proportion of the monk group, exceeding 99% or more. In this way, the market size of first-order elixir and second-order elixir is naturally not inferior to that of high-order elixir. Although the Chen family set foot in the foundation building Dan market, the price of Zhangzhou foundation building Dan has dropped by more than half, from about 50,000 spirit stones in the past to the current 20,000 spirit stones. But for a loose cultivator like Nie Zhong, 20,000 spirit stones were still an unattainable price. According to Nie Zhong, earning 300 spirit stones every year, even if he saves all the spirit stones without spending a penny, it will take 6 years to save this huge sum of money. But Nie Zhong has been cultivating for nearly 40 years. If he can't live up to the foundation establishment pill within 20 years, it means that he will not be able to do foundation establishment in this life. For more than 60 years, Nie Zhong could not afford to wait. A skilled cultivator like Nie Zhong couldn't afford the foundation establishment Dan, let alone an ordinary cultivator. Facing the sky-high price of foundation establishment Dan, they could only be more desperate. In the past few days, there have been several places similar to small schools in Guanghai Xiancheng, which are recruiting students. Learning small things is not unfamiliar to loose cultivators, because they studied in places like Clan Small when they were mortals. But for the schools run by the cultivators, these loose cultivators have never seen them before, especially since the conditions given by the other party are so superior. Excuse me, senior, what do you mean by graduation package distribution? Nie Zhongman looked at the foundation building cultivator who was about 20 years old in front of him with doubts. If it wasn't for Nie Zhong, who recognized this person as the cultivator of the Chen family through his uniform, he would never have believed his nonsense. What did the other party just say? After systematic study, the monthly salary of the students after graduation can reach at least 100 spirit stones. It can even help students with interest-free loans to buy foundation building Dan. Especially the second one, Nie Zhong felt that the other party was crazy. Although Chongqing Central Bank launched the loan business in Guanghai Xiancheng, Nie Zhong knew very well that the loan department of Chongqing Bank was not a charitable institution. When they lend money to the outside world, they are completely inferior to others. They must ensure that the loose cultivator has sufficient collateral and the ability to repay before lending to you. Nie Zhong has a relatively stable income due to his excellent planting techniques for spiritual plants. He was once fortunate to have a loan from the Chongqing Central Bank. But the loan amount was only 200 spirit stones, which was the startup capital for him to rent spirit fields and buy spirit seeds. Of course, he paid off the loan in less than a year. Since then, Nie Zhong has never borrowed from the Chongqing Central Bank again. Because he didn't need a small loan, as for the purchase of a foundation pill, Nie Zhong didn't have the qualifications at all. 20,000 spirit stones, selling Nie Zhong is not worth the price. Chen Fuzhou looked at the 9th-level Qi refining loose cultivator in front of him, and explained with a smile, Dao Yu Nie, the so-called graduation package distribution means that after you study in our school for 1 year, you can get a monthly income of no less than the work of 100 spirit stones. 1 year? Nie Zhong couldn't believe it, the study time was too short. Moreover, in the world of immortality, any valuable knowledge is firmly controlled by the sect and family forces, and I have never heard of a family willing to take the initiative to leak it. Chen family, is this crazy? Yes, 1 year. Chen Fuzhou nodded, of course, if you study fast, you may be able to graduate and be competent for this job in a few months. Gudong. Nie Zhong swallowed hard, and in a few months, he could get a job with an income that was several times higher than that of the previous one, and more importantly, he could also get an interest-free loan to buy a foundation pill. After Nie Zhong asked all this, his head was maddening, I am willing to sign up. Seeing this, Chen Fuzhou smiled and nodded, okay. In the past 2 days, too many loose cultivators like Nie Zhong have come to the admissions office here in Chen Fuzhou. Compared to Nie Zhong, who was a little hesitant because of his skill, the other loose cultivators went crazy after hearing that they were earning more than 1,000 spirit stones every year. After all, the person who said this was not an ordinary loose cultivator, but a cultivator of the Qin family. And Guanhai Xiancheng, including the major spiritual islands within a radius of 10,000 miles, are all Qin family's properties. It is absolutely impossible for such a big family to deceive them, a loose cultivator who has nothing. After all, what is there to deceive a penniless loose cultivator? After I figured this out, coupled with the good reputation that the Qin family has always built up, the admissions and registration offices of various schools are extremely hot, and there is an endless stream of loose cultivators. With this trend set off, gradually, the Lingde city, which is the closest to Guanhai Xiancheng, began to hear the news. Have you heard? Guanhai Xiancheng is actually recruiting loose cultivators, and the income exceeds 1,000 spirit stones a year. 1,000 spirit stones, is it true or false? Yeah, Brother Wang, these big families eat people and don't spit out their bones. Would the Qin family be so kind? I don't know about it, but if you go and see, you won't suffer. Brother Wang is right. It's true or false? Let's go and see. I'll go as well. 7017K. Chapter 293. Twin Lakes Island. Council Hall. Chen Daoxian looked at Chen Daolian and said with his hands behind his back, "You have already started recruiting scattered cultivators in Guanhai Xiancheng?" Young Patriarch, yes. Chen Daoxian nodded. If you want to successfully implement the Industrial Fairy City plan, remember to protect the interests of loose cultivators, and you must not lose everything for a small profit. Hearing this, Chen Daolian hurriedly assured, "Young Patriarch, keep this in mind." After the exhortation, Chen Daoxian said again, "How is the recruitment of loose cultivators now?" When it comes to the recruitment of loose cultivators, Chen Daolian suddenly became excited. "Young Patriarch, the progress of recruiting loose cultivators in major schools this time has been unprecedentedly smooth. Due to the good reputation that my Qin family has established in Guanhai Xiancheng since the issuance of Lingxi coins, all the scattered cultivators believe in the high salary offered by my Qin family and are willing to study in the school established by my Qin family. We estimate that it will take about a year to train the first batch of loose cultivators into qualified special refiners and alchemists. That is to say, in 1 year, our Guanhai Xiancheng will have more than 200,000 alchemists and alchemists. With these alchemists and alchemists, we can completely turn the entire Guanhai Xiancheng into an industrial fairy city." Speaking of this, Chen Daolian's expression was extremely excited. In the Qin family's Shuanghu Island industrial zone, there are only 3 factories for magic weapons and 2 factories for medicinal herbs. The total number of alchemists and alchemists in the factories is only more than 8,000. After all, there are only about 1,600 people in each factory on average. Once the 200,000 alchemists and alchemists in Guanhai Xiancheng are trained, at least 125 factories of the same scale will be built. By then, the output of the medicinal pills and instruments produced by the Qin family will be more than 26 times that of the present. This is only the first batch of students to be trained. As the Qin family pays the salaries of these students truthfully, there will be more and more students in the future. Because the benefits given by the Qin family are too great, the cultivators are all profit-seeking people, and the benefits will tell them how to choose. Lingrui City and Guang'an Palace Xiancheng used higher returns to attract the loose cultivators from Guanhai Xiancheng, and Guanhai Xiancheng could also attract these loose cultivators by the same means. The major families in Sangzhou are united on the surface, but the competition behind the scenes has never stopped. This was the case with Lingrui City and Guang'an Mansion Xiancheng back then, and now Guanhai Xiancheng and the Xiancheng of other families are the same. Seeing Chen Daolian's confident look, Chen Daoxian said, "I'm not worried about whether you can make Guanhai Xiancheng an industrial city, but have you ever thought that after Guanhai Xiancheng is turned into an industrial city, our Qin family will where should I sell the magic weapon elixir produced?" It is the same problem encountered in the industrialization process of the previous life. While industrialization brings about a big explosion of productivity, it will face the problem of insufficient sales market. Although there are no specific statistics, the total number of scattered repairs in Guang'an Prefecture is only a few million, and at most no more than 5 million. Even if there are 5 million monks in Guang'an, there are 13 palaces in Zhangzhou. According to a rough estimate, the population of monks is about 65 million, and at most no more than 100 million. There are so many scattered cultivators, mostly in the low-level qi refining stage and foundation building stage, and there are very few cultivators in the Zifu. Don't think that 100 qi refining cultivators can give birth to a foundation building cultivator, and that 65 million cultivators in Zhangzhou can give birth to thousands of Zifu cultivators. In fact, before the trip to the true immortal origin realm, there were at most hundreds of cultivators in the Zifu in Zhangzhou. The reason why the number of high-level cultivators is so small, in addition to the external factor of Zhangzhou's many disasters, there is another reason is that Zhangzhou's resources are not as many as Taizhou and Jingzhou. In terms of area, Taizhou has the largest area, more than 3 times larger than Zhangzhou, and even Jingzhou is more than twice the size of Zhangzhou. The land area is small, the various resources are usually small, and the number of high-level monks that can be born fundamentally is also small. This is also the biggest reason why nascent soul true monarch was not born even in the heyday of Zhangzhou. Of course, with Zhangzhou's resources, if he hadn't experienced the chaos of divine Ju that year, 1 or 2 Yuaning true monarchs should have been born. This is also one of the reasons why the Jiang family wants to plan Zhangzhou. Zhangzhou's strength is weak, and although the resources are not comparable to Taizhou, it can also make the Jiang family's strength skyrocket. More importantly, once Zhangzhou is eaten, it will be easier to eat Yuanshan, Xiancheng and Jingzhou in the future after the Jiang family grows stronger. The Jiang family could already sense that there was an earth-shattering undercurrent brewing under the calm surface of Wanxinghai. As long as this undercurrent erupts, the world will be turned upside down in an instant. As for the fuse of this undercurrent outbreak, the Jiang family is definitely not willing to act as it, but the Jiang family knows what the fuse is, that is, the Qingwei Taoist sect is about to give birth to a Yuanshan Taoist. Obviously, this is a terrorist strategic force that is enough to change the balance of strength between Shenyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League. Once the Qingwei Taoist sect has a Yuanshan Dao Jun, the Jiang family, including all the Yuanying families in Wanxinghai, must make a choice that concerns the rise and fall of the family. Whether to die with Shenyuan Jianzong, or to fly with the new master of Xianqing Dao Meng. This choice is not difficult, the Jiang family has obviously made a choice. And these are still too far from the current Chen family. Chen Daoxian doesn't even know, this is not a secret at all between the Yuanying family. In other words, the current Chen family is not even qualified to be drawn by the Xianqing Dao League. A family that does not even have Jindan cultivators, no matter how good Chen Daoxuan's personal talent is, it will not be really taken seriously by the major forces. If you want to be squarely faced by forces like Chenyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League, it is the most basic thing to have a Yuanying Zhenjuan in the family. Other geniuses and evildoers will not be squarely faced by forces at the level of Chenyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League. Because the so-called genius monster can only prove that the cultivator has potential. Whether it is Chenyuan Jianzong or Xianqing Dao League, there is no shortage of potential disciples. Why should they care about you, an outside genius? And you are a genius now, can you be sure that in the future you will not encounter any obstacles in the way of comprehension? Can you be sure to survive all the calamities on the way to Jindan and even nascent soul? Both are not. Therefore, a small family like the Zhou family in Guang'an might invest in so-called genius swordsmen. But for forces like Chenyuan Jianzong and Xianqing Dao League, they only look at strength. If Chen Daoxian now has the strength comparable to that of the Zhenhai Palace Hall Master, he will definitely be attracted by the Chenyuan sword sect. What Elder Keqing, the title of honorary elder, smashed Chen Daoxian on the head? The method of refining high-level spirit armor, the refining materials for high-level spirit armor, and all kinds of benefits that cannot be sought now will be automatically delivered to the Chen family. For the current Chen family, they are still unable to intervene in matters at the level of Yuanying Zhenjuan. But the industrial fairy city, they have enough ability to build success. The point is that the benefits of building an industrial fairy city are no less than the benefits occupied by a nascent Soul family. Hearing Chen Daoxian talking about the problem of the sales market, Chen Dalian immediately frowned. The sales market, this is the problem. She thought for a while. Almost all of Zhangzhou's medicinal pills and magical instruments market are monopolized by the major families in Zhangzhou. Although we can take advantage of the price advantage to occupy all the markets, this will undoubtedly bring all Zhangzhou families to the market. All push to the enemy's side. With that said, Chen Dalian looked at Chen Daoxian cautiously. Although with the current strength of my Chen family, I am not afraid even if I am an enemy of the entire Zhangzhou Xiuxian family, but the recovery of Jinan Pass is imminent, and it is unwise to have internal strife at this time. Chen Daoxian shook his head. Hearing this, Chen Dalian bit her lower lip lightly, also a little distressed. Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think that in the history of the previous life, those countries that took the lead in realizing industrialization used the method of developing colonies to consume the huge production capacity brought by industrialization. But for the current Chen family, where to develop the colony? Wan Xinghai. Chen Daoxian shook his head. Wan Xinghai was under the rule of Qianyuan Jianzong, and there were many immortal clans in Hezhou. If the Chen family wanted to intervene, it was undoubtedly an enemy of the major families. Although the Chen family can use the method of developing agents to dump the medicinal herbs and instruments at low prices to the cultivators in various states, and then find them to buy the raw materials for refining pills and instruments. In this way, the states can be developed into their own product dumping grounds without a fight, in the way of boiling frogs in warm water. But this is very difficult. Because the immortal cultivators in various states are not fools, they can definitely see how terrifying it is to hand over the production rights of magical instruments and medicinal pills to outsiders. Although these families can obtain greater benefits from it in a short period of time, once the Chen family cuts off their supply of medicinal herbs, it will cause heavy damage to these families. You must know that medicinal pills and magic tools are not only used for cultivation in ordinary times. Once the war comes, the demand for medicinal pills and magic tools for monks will skyrocket. The two sides are fighting. One side has a sufficient supply of medicinal pills, and the other has no medicinal pills. As long as the difference in strength between the two sides is not too great, the one with sufficient supply of medicinal pills will be crushing the other. Therefore, the immortal cultivators in various states will definitely not allow the Chen family to arbitrarily invade their market for medicinal pills. Chen Dalian watched Chen Daoxuan's brows furrowed, and stood there for a while, daring not to say anything to disturb him. It is obviously impossible for Wan Xinghai to be the dumping ground for the Chen family's products. So, what about places beyond the Wangxinghai? For example, Xianyan Prefecture, or even the real demon world. Chen Daoxian suddenly remembered that the two spirit pets, Qi Tong and Qi Ling, who had been sent to Qingqiu Yaogua as undercover agents, became active for a while. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's happy brows, Chen Dalian knew that the young patriarch must have an idea in his mind, and could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. For the sales market of the magic weapon pills, we can temporarily cooperate with Yuanchen Xiancheng. He paused. Yuanchen Xiancheng has a population of tens of millions of scattered cultivators, and there is a great demand for magic tools and medicinal herbs. And although Yuanchen Xiancheng does not have much land, the scattered cultivators in this immortal city come from the Wangxinghai states. Loose cultivation itself can bring the resources of the Wangxinghai states. I think, to cooperate with Yuanchen Jinjuan and make Yuanchen Xiancheng a sales window for our Chen family, Yuanchen Jinjuan will definitely agree. Hearing these words, Chen Dalian couldn't help swallowing. Does the Chen family have the strength to cooperate with the Yuanying Jinjuan? With the productivity of the Chen family's industrial fairy city in the future, it has this qualification, but the Chen family itself is only a Zifu family, and there is not even a Jindan real person in the family. How can such a family make a Yuanying real monarch face it? Cooperation is built on the basis of equal strength, otherwise it will not be cooperation, but one party will become a vassal of the other party. Obviously, Chen Daoxian also understood this truth. He smiled. Of course, the cooperation with Yuanchen Xiancheng will have to wait until I break through the golden core stage. Hearing this, Chen Daolian was shocked. She didn't expect that Chen Daoxian would consider breaking through the Golden Core stage before it had been a year since he broke through the Purple Palace stage. But if you think about it carefully, not only Chen Daoxian, but also the group of Zhengxianyuanji saved hundreds of years of hard work by many monks in the 3 states. Chen Daoxian is now on the 9th floor of the Purple Mansion, and it doesn't seem like a big deal for him to consider breaking through the Golden Core stage. The 9th floor of the Purple Mansion. Every time Chen Daolian thinks of the cultivation of the young patriarch, he has the illusion that he is in a dream. She knew better that the most terrifying thing about Chen Daoxian was not the cultivation of the 9th floor of the Purple Mansion. There is nothing to be proud of. What shocked Chen Daolian the most was Chen Daoxuan's Dao state. According to rumors from the outside world, Chen Daoxian has reached the 3rd level of Kendo, the realm of sword, meaning transforming into a star. And he has walked a considerable distance from the star transformation realm, and has reached the middle of the star transformation realm. From the perspective of matching the cultivation base with the realm of the avenue, the cultivation base of the 9th floor of Zifu should correspond to the realm of the avenue in the high section of the star transformation realm. Chen Daoxuan's Dao realm is still slightly behind his own cultivation. But there is no way, the true immortal origin realm and his party, his cultivation base has improved too fast, like sitting on a rocket, directly from the late stage of foundation establishment to the late stage of Zifu. Even if he had the assistance of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, he could not make the Dao realm catch up with his cultivation. With Chen Daoxuan's character, since he said that he wants to break through the Golden Core stage, he must be confident that he can raise the realm of the Great Dao to the same level as the cultivation base in a short period of time, or even exceed the level of the cultivation base. Chen Daolian didn't know that the confidence of their young patriarch came not only from the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, but also from the mysterious inheritance at the bottom of the Wangxinghai Sea. That's right, after so many twists and turns, Chen Daoxian finally had time to accept Wan Xinghai's inheritance. Go to Wangxinghai to retreat? When Chen Daoxian said that he was going to retreat under the sea in Wangxinghai, Chen Daolian gave him a strange look. Breaking through the golden elixir is no trivial matter, of course you have to retreat. Chen Daoxian took it for granted. Then, is Sister Luoli going? Hearing this, he finally understood why Chen Daolian's eyes were a little strange just now. Thinking of this, he tapped Chen Daolian's little head lightly and scared her. It seems that you are quite concerned about the Dao companion. In that case, how about I find a good husband for you? Hearing this, Chen Daolian's face changed greatly, and she quickly grabbed Chen Daoxuan's arm and shook her coquettishly and said, "Young patriarch, Dao Lian knows it's wrong, I won't dare again next time." No, next time. Chen Daolian reacted immediately, shaking her head like a rattle. Seeing her fear of marriage, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but smile. Said to marry Chen Daolian, of course, to scare her. With Chen Daoxuan's training of her, even if Chen Daolian and the male cultivator are both Taoist companions in the future, they can only recruit Su. It is impossible to marry Chen Daolian. This is not only Chen Daoxuan's emotional reluctance, but also real harm to interests. Chen Daolian knows too much about the secrets of the Chen family. Chen Daoxian was almost cultivating her as the next head of the Chen family. How could it be possible to marry her? Chen Daolian looked at Chen Daoxian carefully, and when she saw the anger on his face dissipated, she could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, she didn't know why she would suddenly make a joke like Chen Daoxian, but every time she thought that Luo Li had become a Taoist partner with the young patriarch, Chen Daolian always felt inexplicable pain in her heart. Chapter 294. Jinwu Island, the Yang family land. In front of a vast Linghu Lake, an old man faced Linghu Lake and stood with his hands down. Behind the old man, a young and beautiful, fair-skinned and beautiful woman with a slender figure saluted and said to the old man, "Grandfather." "Well, here we come." Yang Linyuan smiled and turned around, glanced at Yang Gongwan, who had been promoted to the late stage of Zifu, and sighed, "The essence of vitality is really amazing, but unfortunately the late foundation building cultivator sent by my Chen family to the true immortal origin realm is still too weak." the essence of vitality obtained can only add 3 cultivators of the purple house to the family. Hearing this, Yang Gongwan was quite puzzled. Grandfather, both of you and I have been promoted to the late stage of Zifu, plus the 3 newly added cultivators of Zifu, there are only 5 Zifu in the Yang family. In addition, my Guang'an Immortal League has even given birth to 4 new cultivators of the purple house. To sum up, our Guang'an Xianmeng now has a total of 9 Zifu cultivators. The number of Zifu cultivators has already caught up with the Zhou family, the largest family in Guang'an. Our strength has increased so much. Why are you still a little uncomfortable, grandfather? Happy? Hearing this, Yang Linyuan shook his head, having said that, compared with our Guang'an Immortal League, the strength of the Zhou family, especially the Qin family, has improved even more. Qin family? Yang Gongwan was quite puzzled. If it is said that the strength of the Zhou family has grown horribly, Yang Gongwan can still understand it. After all, the Zhou family gave birth to the only Jindan cultivator in Sangzhou, and became the second Jindan family after the Yi family. In Yang Gongwan's opinion, although Guang'an House nominally owns the Zhou family, the Qin family, and the Yang family, in fact, the Zhou family has far left the Qin and Yang families far behind, and they are the best in Sangzhou. Seeing Yang Gongwan's expression, Ang Linyuan roughly guessed what the other party was thinking, shook his head and said, although the Zhou family is amazing, but the Qin family is probably hidden deeper. He paused. Did you pay attention when Zhou Laozu crossed the Golden Core lightning tribulation last time? How many cultivators of the Purple Mansion came to the Qin family? Hearing this, Yang Gongwan thought for a while, then frowned slightly and said, including Qin Daoxian, the head of the Qin family, there are a total of 12. It's just that according to the family's information, there is no information about the woman beside Qin Daoxian. Yang Linyuan nodded. It can be seen that you are very attentive to the situation in Guang'an Mansion. That's right, that woman is not from the Qin family, she is the princess of the Merman clan, and her name is Luoli Luoli. Yang Gongwan whispered softly. The mermaid race is the vassal race of the Qin family, which is no secret in Sangzhou. The transaction between the Qin family and the merman has long been no longer sneaky, but carried out in an open and honest manner. The strength has reached a certain level, and the trade that once needed to be cautious for fear of being discovered by outsiders is just a normal thing in the eyes of the Qin family. Of course, with the growth of the Qin family's strength, the merman trade, which once brought them great profits, has gradually become a bit tasteless now. If it weren't for the treasures like Shui Lingzhu, it would be very helpful to the cultivation of the low-level monks of the Qin family, especially the monks in the Qi refining stage, and there would be calls in the Qin family to give up trade with the mere people. After all, the annual trade volume of millions of spirit stones is not even a drop in the bucket for the Qin family's net profit of more than 1 billion spirit stones a year. It is indeed a waste of energy to work hard to trade with the mere people. It's just that the merman is the only vassal race of the Qin family after all, and its political propaganda role is greater than the benefits it brings to the Qin family. The Qin family has never abandoned the merman, and is also using this method to tell the various races in the Wangxinghai underwater world that the Qin family is a family that is trustworthy and dependable, and everyone is welcome to come and join. In front of Linghu Lake. Yang Gongwan was still a little puzzled. However, what does a merman from the Purple House have to do with the terrifying strength of the Qin family? Even if the Qin family has 11 Zifu monks, the number of Zifu monks in our Guang'an Xianmeng is only slightly less than the other party. Even if Qin Daoxian himself is amazing, the loose cultivators don't understand this. They will only see who has several Jindan cultivators and several Zifu cultivators. You're right. Yang Linyuan nodded, but do you still remember the time when the mere people invaded the immortal city of Guang'an Mansion? Yang Gongwan's brows furrowed even deeper, but she still nodded. Remember. When the merman invaded the immortal city of Guang'an Mansion, I clearly remember that the woman named Luoli was next to the leader of the mere people. At that time, her cultivation base was only in the late stage of foundation building. You said. What is the reason? Her cultivation level has broken through from the late stage of foundation establishment to the late stage of Zifu in less than 20 years. Hearing this, Yang Gongwan was startled. She looked at Yang Linyuan and said in awe, the essence of vitality. Yang Linyuan nodded. turned to look at the lake, and said leisurely, "It's the essence of vitality." The Chen family was able to give the incomparably precious vitality essence to their vassal Mer people. One can imagine how much vitality essence the Chen family has in their hands. Yang Linyuan was very determined, therefore, there may be more cultivators in the Zifu hidden by the Chen family than we all imagined. Hearing this analysis, Yang Gongwan couldn't help but feel enlightened, and immediately felt a chill in her heart, so she couldn't help arguing, could it be that Chen Daoxian fell in love with the princess of the mermaid and privately gave this precious essence of vitality to Luo Li? I remember that Luo Li's face was so beautiful. However, before Yang Gongwan finished speaking, Yang Linyuan looked at her quietly, so that she could not say the words of luck in her mouth. Seeing that her grandfather was a little dissatisfied, Yang Gongwan lowered her head and said, "Grandfather, Weiner knows it's wrong." "Hey, Weiner, you have to remember that as decision-makers of the family, it's not terrible for us to make mistakes. What's terrible is that we don't admit our mistakes, and we have to go further and further down the wrong road." Yang Linyuan pointed out, the cooperation between Lingzhou City and the Zhou family to suppress the Chen family's Guanghai Xiancheng can be stopped. In addition, it was agreed that the bank branch of the Chen family would be settled in Lingzhou Xiancheng, and that the Chen family would promote Lingshi coins in Lingzhou Xiancheng. "Grandfather." Yang Gongwan raised her head in shock, as if she couldn't believe Yang Linyuan's decision. What the spirit stone coins represent, the big families in Sangzhou can't be more clear. In fact, Chen Daoxian is not the only smart person. More than one of the Yuanian clans in the Wangxinghai states thought about using other currencies or contribution points to replace the spirit stones as a general equivalent, but they all failed. The reason for the failure of these families is not complicated, that is, the excessive issuance of currency leads to the flooding and devaluation of currency. After all, few families can resist the temptation to plunder vast wealth at the touch of a finger. This is also the fundamental reason why all the major families of Wanxinghai failed to issue currency. At present, it seems that in the entire Wangxinghai, only the military merit system created by Chenyuan Jianzong is more successful. Chenyuan Jianzong's military exploits can be exchanged for spirit stones without hindrance. Among the high-level monks, there are also many items that use the military exploits of Chenyuan Jianzong to settle transactions. It can be said that Chenyuan Jianzong has taken a solid step in replacing spirit stones as a new type of currency for military exploits. But there is a fatal problem with the merit system, that is, the group of users is not widely used. In Wanxinghai, most of the base-building cultivators and the high-level cultivators above the base-building level have access to the military exploits of the Chenyuan sword sect. But for the vast majority of Wanxinghai's low-level qi refining cultivators, the proportion of them on the battlefield is very small, and it is not an exaggeration to say that they are 1 in 100 or even 1 in 1,000. Most of these low-level qi refining cultivators who have never been on the battlefield of Izumo country naturally have no way to gain military exploits. As for the exchange with high-level monks, don't be kidding, with the contempt chain of the practice world, there are several high-level monks who look at low-level monks, let alone the 3 melons and 2 dates exchanged by low-level monks. Chen Gongwan's worry, Chen Linyuan saw it in his eyes, he smiled and said, "Don't worry, the new currency introduced by the Chen family has also been tried by the Yuanian clan of Wanxinghai, but none of them have been successful. In the short term, letting Lingshi City use Lingshi coins seems to put all the trade in Linghui City under the control of the Chen family, but as long as the Lingshi coins depreciate wildly in the future, the current situation will be restored." Hearing these words, Yang Gongwan breathed a sigh of relief. Linghui City is the lifeline of the Yang family. Once this lifeline is handed over to the Chen family, it means that the Yang family has become a vassal family of the Chen family. This is absolutely unacceptable to the arrogant Yang family. Yang Linyuan thought for a while and continued, "Just like this, it's not enough to make up for the rift between our two families." Saying that, Yang Linyuan raised his hand. I saw a quaint tea sapling with a little aura appear in front of Yang Gongwan. Enlightenment tea tree. Yang Gongwan didn't know how many times she was shocked today, she trembled, "This is for the Chen family?" "Well, if there is a chance, I want you to hand it over to Chen Daoxian in person." "Yes." Yang Gongwan endured the heartache and lowered her head. Shuanghu Island high altitude. A flash of light came swiftly towards Shuanghu Island, approaching the defense formation of Shuanghu Island. The light stopped, revealing the figure of a slender woman. It was Yang Gongwan. Yang Gongwan, the head of the Yang family, asks to see Chen Daoxian, Chen Daoyu. Yang Gongwan looked at the brilliant defensive formation in front of her, and knew that this must be a high-level defensive formation above the third rank. Soon, a young figure flew out from the defensive formation. It was Chen Fusheng, the minister of the Chen family. Fairy Yang, the young patriarch asked me to invite you over. Fellow Daoist Chen, it's time to work. Yang Gongwan gave a blessing and said softly, "You are welcome." After all, the two flew into the defensive formation of Shuanghu Island one after the other. Moment. In front of the two spirit lakes in front of the Shuanghu Island Council Hall. Chen Daoxian looked at how Luo Li cultivated spirit scallops among the female cultivators, and couldn't help laughing. If your improved freshwater spirit scallop farming method can succeed, then my human monks can also breed a large number of spirit scallops. Thank you very much. In the center of Linghu, Luo Li turned her head and smiled shyly. Chen Lang made fun of me. Just as Chen Daoxian was about to speak, he sensed two escaping lights flying towards Linghu, and he couldn't help but raised his head and looked into the air. The two escape lights descended. It was Chen Fusheng and Yang Gongwan. Patriarch Chen, your concubine is polite. Seeing Chen Daoxian, Yang Gongwan gave him a salute, showing a charming look. Chen Daoxian raised his hand slightly and said, "You don't need to be more polite, fellow Daoist Yang." Yang Gongwan raised her head. Looking at this man in a white Taoist robe, standing with his hands behind his back, his handsome face is full of confidence. Yang Gongwan couldn't help but be in a trance. Once upon a time, Yang Gongwan still vividly remembers the cautious appearance of this young Taoist when she attended her grandfather's banquet in the Purple Mansion. But, how long has it been? Less than 20 years. In less than 20 years, a top family in Guang'an Prefecture and even the entire Zhangzhou has quietly risen. You must know that the rise of a cultivation force is 100 times or even 10,000 times more difficult than the rise of an ordinary monk. Ordinary loose cultivation practice to the nascent soul stage, there is still a chance. For more than 400 years, there were far more than 10 true cultivators of the nascent soul who were born in Wanxinghai. But there is no such big power as Chenyuan Zhenzong. Some people may say that with the existence of Chenyuan sword sect, it is impossible for Wanxinghai to give birth to a second such great force. But in the same way, in the world of immortality, as long as there is a spiritual mountain, how can there be no owner? If you want to build a cultivation force, it is necessary and basic to have a vast territory. In addition, monks are also required to know how to operate, how to earn resources, and how to train disciples. After completing a series of things in the sect or family, in order to ensure that the big circle will not fall by the wayside, you have to ensure that your own strength is always in the first echelon of the cultivation force, or even the first. Only by completing these can we guarantee the rise of a great power of cultivation. As for ordinary scattered cultivators, he can't even solve the resources for his own cultivation. How can he expect him to solve the cultivation resources of a big power? Therefore, Yang Gongwan felt incredible after seeing Chen Daoxian at this moment. In Wanxinghai, the rise of an individual is far simpler than the rise of a family power. Not to mention, it can be said that in Guang'an Mansion, there are many monks in the chi refining stage who have a good chance and have broken through to the foundation building stage in the Izumo Kingdom battlefield. Logically speaking, his family should become the foundation building family. But in fact, this foundation building family, apart from having this foundation building cultivator, the family background is not much different from the previous one. The reason is that in Wanxinghai, the monks in the chi refining stage are low-level monks, and the monks in the foundation building stage are also low-level monks. Even the cultivators of the Zifu period were not considered high-ranking cultivators. In the cultivation world, strictly speaking, only after passing through the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation and reaching the Golden Core stage can one be regarded as a high-level cultivator. As for the cultivator becoming Yuaning Jinjuan, and then developing the family, it will indeed make the family develop rapidly. But under normal circumstances, how many years does it take to give birth to a true monarch nascent soul? The possibility of an ordinary cultivator becoming the true monarch of nascent soul is too slim. Not to mention, even if a nascent soul true sovereign was replaced by Chen Daoxian, he probably wouldn't be able to do better than Chen Daoxian. Even true monarch Yuanying, not everyone can create a terrifying fairy city like true monarch Yuanchen. Friend Yang. Seeing Yang Gongwan's dazed expression, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but reminded softly. Feel sorry, Yang Gongwan's pretty face blushed slightly. I remember the first time I met Dao Yuchen, and I can't help it. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian knew the reason why the other party couldn't help himself, and he didn't blame her, but just smiled. Young Daoyu, isn't this trip just to catch up with me? Of course it's not just about catching up with fellow Taoists, Yang Gongwan said sternly. Actually, I came here to represent Lingrui City and apologize to the Chen family's Guanhai Xianqing. Chapter 295. Apologize? Chen Daoxian looked at Yang Gongwan with interest. What's wrong with Lingzhou City? Seeing this, Yang Gongwan smiled bitterly. Chen Daoxian is about to break his concubine. Lingzhou City and Zhou family together to suppress Guanhai Xianqing, it is indeed my Yang family's mishandling. Before Yang Gongwan finished speaking, he was interrupted by Chen Daoxian raising his hand. What you said is a legitimate competition among the three immortal cities, Guanhai Xianqing, Lingrui City, and Guang'an Prefecture Xianqing. Neither violates the decree of Qianyuan Jianzong, nor violates the morality of Zhangzhou Fellows. What is the crime of your Yang family? Hearing these words, Yang Gongwan was a little unbelievable. She took a serious look at Chen Daoxian and found that he didn't seem to be perfunctory. Could it be, is this what he really thinks in his heart? For some reason, seeing the faint smile on Chen Daoxian's face, Yang Gongwan suddenly had this idea. However, there is no legitimate competition in the world of immortality. Whoever has the bigger fist has the right to speak. Thinking of this, Yang Gongwan was a little stunned. If Fairy Yang is here for this matter, please rest assured that the Hui clan, my Chen family will never resort to inferior means to your Yang family because of this matter. Even if Guanhai Xianqing makes a move, it will only be within the scope of fair competition. Hearing this, Yang Gongwan couldn't help clenching her slender fingers. She suddenly thought of something, stepped forward and said, Dao Yuchen is so generous, but my Yang family treats the belly of a gentleman with the heart of a villain. Chen Daoxian waved his hands again and again. Yang Gongwan paused for a while, then continued, that being the case, my Spirit Day City wants to cooperate with Guanhai Xianqing. I wonder what Dao Yuchen thinks. Oh? I don't know how Fairy Yang wants to cooperate. At the moment, Yang Gongwan recounted all the conditions that Yang Linyuan said. Chen Daoxian listened silently, with a faint smile on his face. Will such conditions be too harsh on the Yang family? I don't think this is like cooperation, but it is like the terms of the Yang family vassalizing my Chen family. Seeing Chen Daoxian's words being so straightforward, with Yang Gongwan's character, he couldn't help but feel a burst of resentment. But on the way to Shuanghu Island, Yang Gongwan noticed dozens of Zifu cultivators after paying a little attention. Obviously, the strength of the Chen family is exactly the same as grandfather's speculation, which is really unfathomable. In Zhangzhou today, the most powerful family is not the Zhou family, but the Chen family in front of her. Facing the patriarch of the real first family in Zhangzhou, how dare Yang Gongwan get angry? Even if you are dissatisfied, you can only endure it. Chen Daoxian didn't care about Yang Gongwan's mood. For him, the little Yang family had long been ignored by him. What he sees now is the overlord-level family such as the Jiang family and the Ji family that dominate a state. As for the Yang family and even the Zhou family, the new Jindan family in Zhangzhou, they are no longer in the eyes of Chen Daoxian. As long as all the monks in Zhangzhou did not unite against the Chen family was not afraid of any family in Zhangzhou. With Chen Daoxian's reputation in Zhangzhou, as long as the Zhangzhou Chen family didn't do something outrageous, they would never encounter such a situation. Yang Gongwan calmed down and said softly, "If you have to think so, Dao Yu Chen, it's not impossible." Before Yang Gongwan finished speaking, Chen Daoxian said, "I take what Fairy Yang said seriously." "What?" Chen Daoxian said sternly, "I said I took it seriously. Your Yang family is willing to be a vassal family of my Chen family." Chen Daoxian's action of hitting the snake and following the stick caught Yang Gongwan off guard for a while. She wanted to refute, but she was afraid of the power of the Chen family, and was extremely aggrieved. In the end, Yang Gongwan clenched her teeth secretly. "That's all, Sangzhou belongs to either the Zhou family or the Chen family. Anyway, we have to stand in line in the end, so it's better to make a decision earlier today." Yang Gongwan admitted that she was a little impulsive after being so provoked by Chen Daoxian. But in this world, it is impossible to have absolute certainty about everything. Moreover, the greater the risk, the greater the benefit. Nowadays, other families in Sangzhou probably put their treasures on the Zhou family, a new Jindan family, and few families can discover the potential stock of the Chen family. Her Yang family got into the car early, and in the future, she will be able to follow the dragon's work. Thinking of this, the anxiety in Yang Gongwan's heart disappeared. She remembered the words of her grandfather, "Those who do great things should never be afraid." As the head of the Yang family, Yang Gongwan is not only responsible for the rise and fall of the family, but also bears the pressure. Chen Daoxian looked at the resolute look on Yang Gongwankio's face, and said, "Can Fairy Yang be the head of the Yang family?" Hearing this, Yang Gongwan didn't have the slightest anger on her face, only a calm expression. "Since the corpse tied in Sangzhou, I have taken over as the head of the Yang family, and I can naturally decide the affairs of the Yang family." "Okay," Chen Daoxian nodded, turned to Chen Fusheng beside him and instructed, "Go to your aunt and bring the family seal." "Yes, young patriarch." Chen Fusheng bowed his hands in a salute, and immediately flew towards the discussion hall. Chen Daoxian turned his head, "Can Fairy Yang carry the family seal?" "Of course I brought it." Yang Gongwan nodded and took out a small purple seal from the storage bag, which was the seal that symbolized the authority of the Yang family patriarch. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian nodded with satisfaction. Soon, Chen Daolian and Chen Fusheng flew towards the crowd together. "Young patriarch." When Chen Daolian saw Chen Daoxian, she immediately saluted. Chen Daoxian nodded, and immediately explained the matter of the Yang family's vassal of the Chen family. When Chen Daolian heard the words, her pretty face was full of incredible. The Yang family is the leader of the Guang'an Immortal League and one of the three major families of Guang'an House. Although the strength of the Yang family today is far less than that of the other two families in Guang'an House, it is not reduced to the point of being a vassal of other families. Unless... Chen Daolian glanced at Chen Daoxian, wondering what trick the young patriarch played to coax Fairy Yang. After negotiating the details of the vassals of the two clans, Chen Daoxian held a contract made of talisman paper and looked at Yang Gongwan and said, "Fairy Yang, these treaties, are there any problems?" Yang Gongwan read the vassal clauses of the Chen and Yang clans 3 times in a row. The vassal clauses were quite generous. In addition to obeying the Chen family's decrees in terms of grand strategy, it guaranteed the Yang family's considerable autonomy. Moreover, I don't know if Chen Daoxian was intentional or not, the vassal agreement signed by the Chen family and the Yang family only involved the Chen and Yang families, and did not involve the Guang'an Xianmeng. Doesn't this mean that the Chen family has no interest in the small families in the Guang'an Xianmeng, and the Guang'an Xianmeng will still obey the Yang family's dispatch in the future? I have to say, this is good news. After all, no matter how small the mosquito's legs are, it is still meat. The Guang'an Xianmeng, which the Chen family dislikes, can bring a lot of benefits to the Yang family every year. Yang Gongwan checked the terms and confirmed that there were no problems. Both parties took out their clan seals and stamped their seals on the vassal terms. Suddenly, the terms made of the rune paper flew into the air, spontaneously ignited without fire, and eventually turned into ashes. At this moment, a faint connection appeared between Chen Daoxian and Yang Gongwan. Just as Chen Daoxian did when he conquered the Mer people. The vassal clause, or the oath of vassalism, is different from the oath of the avenue, and its binding force is far less powerful than the oath of the avenue. Relying on this kind of thing alone, wanting to make another force completely surrender to oneself is a complete nonsense. The vassal between forces relies on the all-round influence and restraint of force, economy and even culture. On oaths and terms alone, that stuff is nowhere near as noble as paper in the toilet. Both parties signed the terms and conditions. A complex look flashed across Yang Gongwan's face. She formally knelt down and saluted to Chen Daoxian, "Meet the Lord." Seeing that Yang Gongwan finished the big ceremony, Chen Daoxian stepped forward, helped her up in person, and said warmly, "It's all a family, so there's no need to be so polite in the future." "Thank you, Lord." Yang Gongwan lowered her head and said. Seeing that Yang Gongwan was somewhat uncomfortable, Chen Daoxian took out a bottle of unused vitality essence from the storage bag, handed it over and said, "This is a gift I gave to your Yang family as a vassal." "Lord, it is absolutely impossible, this." Yang Gongwan was still refusing a second ago, but found that Chen Daoxian took out the essence of vitality, and abruptly held back the words of refusal. Seeing Yang Gongwan's pretty face blushing, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but laugh. Yang Gongwan took a deep breath, took out a spiritual tree seedling from the storage bag, and said, "This thing was originally an apology that my grandfather asked me to give to the Lord. Since the Lord forgives me for the sins of the Yang family, this thing should be my Yang family congratulates the Lord on breaking through the Purple Palace." Enlightenment Tea Tree. Chen Daoxian had not yet recognized the tree, but Chen Dalian, who was beside him, exclaimed, "Do you recognize this tree?" Chen Dalian nodded. The Enlightenment Tea Tree bears a piece of tea for 10 years, and a tea tree can bear up to 9 pieces at the same time. Each piece of tea can greatly improve the cultivator's understanding for about half an hour, which is a magical effect. Speaking of this, Chen Dalian couldn't help but sound the effect of the young patriarch's sermon, and immediately came back to his senses. Tao Enlightenment Tea is indeed a treasure that enhances the background for other forces, but for the Chen family, it's just icing on the cake. If the young patriarch takes some time to preach to the elite children of the clan, the effect is not sure how many times better than this tea for enlightenment. Chen Daoxian naturally understands this truth, but this thing is the Yang family's heart, and he accepts it. Even if the disciples of the Chen family don't have access to Tao Enlightenment Tea, it would be good to trade this thing with others or give it as a gift in the future. In a good mood, Chen Daoxian and Luo Li personally sent Yang Gongwan to the outside of the defense formation on Shuanghu Island. Fairy Yang, the journey is smooth sailing. Inherit the Lord's auspicious words. Yang Gongwan saluted again, and immediately disappeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Seeing Yang Gongwan flying away, Luo Li raised her head and looked at Chen Daoxian's side face and said, "Chen Lang, are you going to conquer the major families in Sangzhou next?" Chen Daoxian shook his head. "It's just a matter of course, even if the Yang family doesn't agree today, it's nothing. For my Chen family, the most important thing is always our own strength and the vassal of external forces, but it's just the icing on the cake. Besides, if the Chen family is not strong enough, what is the use of having more vassal forces?" Hearing this, Luo Li nodded thoughtfully. She couldn't help but think of her own mercenary family, which was too weak for the current Chen family. Her identity as a princess of the mermaid race is increasingly incompatible with Chen Daoxian. Although Luo Li knew that Chen Daoxian never cared about this, no one in the Chen family dared to point fingers at Chen Daoxian's Dao companion except Chen Xianhe. But Luo Li herself didn't want to be reduced to a useless vase. She had a hard life in Wanxinghai and understood that if she wanted the two sides to go further together, she could only do her best to keep up with Chen Daoxian's pace. At least, she has to keep up with Chen Daoxian's footsteps in terms of cultivation. At present, it seems that Chen Daoxian and her cultivation base are the same, and they are both on the 9th floor of Zifu. However, the 9th floor of the Purple Mansion is different from the 9th floor of the Purple Mansion. With Chen Daoxian's Dao realm, he can break through to the Golden Core stage at any time. For Luo Li, the Golden Core stage is still a distant realm. In particular, in order to transform in advance, she wasted an opportunity to advance to the bloodline supernatural power, and the resistance to breaking through the Jin Dan stage will be even greater in the future. What's up? As if sensing the strangeness of the beautiful woman beside him, Chen Daoxian turned his head and asked, "Nothing." Luoli shook her head and smiled, "Where shall we go next? Ling Bei have all been raised in Linghu. Whether they can succeed or not depends on the will of God." Chen Daoxian thought for a while, and said with a smile, "Since the affairs of the clan are temporarily over, why don't you go see your father-in-law?" "What?" Luoli was a little overwhelmed. She gently rubbed the skirt with her hand. "This? Whatever this or that, it's better to hit the sun if you choose a day, it's better to hit the sun now, go now." Luoli only felt her little hand tighten. It turned out to be held by Chen Daoxian. Immediately afterwards, there was a gust of speed. Looking at the tall figure in front of her, the tension in Luoli's heart gradually dissipated, and she only felt a burst of sweetness. This feeling was like the first time she held Chen Daoxian's hand and swam to the bottom of Wangxinghai together. Just when Luoli missed it, arrive. Hearing the words in his ear, Luoli looked up. Sure enough, it was the sea area of the Demon Mountain. Chen Daoxian smiled at her, and then plunged into the sea with her. Compared to when they were in the qi refining period, the speed of the two of them under the water was several times faster. Less than a stick of incense time. The two came to the Magic Monkey Mountain. When Chen Daoxian came to the bottom of Wanxinghai, the so-called meeting his father-in-law was second. His real purpose was to accept the inheritance trial of Wanxinghai again. Moreover, he intends to break through to the Golden Core stage in the Magic Monkey Mountain. Similar to breaking through the foundation building stage and breaking through the Purple Palace stage, breaking through the Golden Core stage also has requirements on the spiritual veins. Chen Daoxian broke through the Purple Mansion in the true immortal origin realm. The reason why he did not have the requirements on the spiritual veins was because the consumption of his breakthrough through the Purple Mansion period was all provided by the essence of vitality. When he breaks through to the Golden Core stage in the future, there will be no vitality essence for him to squander. The essence of vitality can only be stored for a few months at most, and I have to say, this is really a pity. Of course, there is not much regret. The key to breaking through the Golden Core stage is not the formation of the core, but the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation after the core. In the immortal cultivation world, many cultivators of Zifu did not have the confidence to form pills, but did not have the confidence to survive the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation. Especially after Chen Daoxian saw the horror of the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation with his own eyes, he understood even more why the cultivators of the Zifu were afraid of the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation. Even now, he doesn't dare to say that he can 100% successfully transcend the tribulation without any accident. Among the triple calamities of the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, Chen Daoxian was the least confident about the simplest physical calamity. Because of his body refinement, he has only just reached the lowest limit for passing the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, the peak of the flesh derivative realm. Chapter 296. Demon Mountain. Chen Lang, when you speak of the Wangxinghai inheritance trial, you mean the sea of stars above our heads? Luoli tilted her head and asked curiously. Right, Chen Daoxian nodded. The trial of Wanxinghai inheritance should not be a secret among the major forces. As far as I know, both the Jiang family and Shenyuan Zhenzong know this inheritance. What? Luoli covered her small mouth. Isn't this inheritance preempted by others? It's not that simple. Chen Daoxian shook his head with a smile. The inheritance of Wanxinghai has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, and no one should have obtained this inheritance in its entirety. The reason why Chen Daoxian made this judgment is because he has an unparalleled comprehension advantage compared to other testers. Even so, Chen Daoxian still did not obtain this inheritance. As for other testers like Yi Wudao and Jiang Chenai, they wear a pattern on their foreheads all day long, for fear that others will not know the identity of their Wangxinghai inheritance testers, let alone that. Luoli didn't know what to say, and suddenly felt a sense of urgency in her heart. In her heart, this kind of top inheritance naturally hopes that her sweetheart will get it, but she can't help Chen Daoxian at the moment, so she can only be anxious. Seeing the anxious look in Luo Li's eyes, Chen Daoxian stroked her hair and said, "Don't worry, I'm here this time to completely win this inheritance." In words, he is confident in living this inheritance. Hearing this, Luo Li's sly eyes flashed away, and she said, "Didn't you say, this trip is to see my father?" Hearing this, Chen Daoxian froze and was speechless. Seeing this, Luo Li's eyes curved into crescents, and she covered her mouth and laughed. Between the two talking. Soon he arrived at the Magic Monkey Mountain Canyon, where Chen Daoxian had retreated before. After entering the formation, the sea water disappeared immediately, and in the middle of the canyon, the passage of the true demon world, which was like a black hole, became much larger to the naked eye. In the previous passage of the true demon realm, only one person could pass through curled up. Today, the opening of this passage is almost 3 feet in diameter, which is several times larger. In front of the true demon realm passage, a black-robed Taoist sat on the ground. This black-robed Taoist looks very familiar, and looks somewhat similar to Chen Daoxian. Seeing this, Luo Li glanced at Chen Daoxian strangely. She clearly sensed that the cultivation of the black-robed Taoist was not high, only the second floor of the foundation. The body training is quite high, and like Chen Daoxian, he has reached the peak of flesh and blood. Chen Lang. Luo Li hasn't said a word yet. The black-robed Taoist in front of him took the initiative to stand up and turn his head. Seeing the appearance of the black-robed Taoist, Luo Li couldn't help covering her mouth and said in surprise, "Clone?" "Exactly." Chen Daoxian smiled and nodded. This black-robed Taoist is none other than the black-robed avatar he left behind to guard the family and the passage to the real demon world. After nearly a year, the chi-refining cultivation of the black-robed clone has only been upgraded to the second floor of the foundation establishment, but with the help of the blood crystals, the body-refining cultivation has advanced by leaps and bounds, reaching the peak of the flesh derivative realm, which is equivalent to the peak of the foundation establishment realm. Coupled with the second-level kendo realm, the black-robe clone is also a purple mansion-level combat power. Of course, the battle strength of the purple mansion was nothing to the current Chen Daoxian. The strength of the black-robe clone is 108,000 miles worse than the deity. In addition to the gap in the realm of the Great Tao, there is a huge gap in cultivation, magic tools, magical powers, etc. The two are not on the same level. Chen Daoxian sacrificed the black-robe clone to explore the real demon world. Although he took into account the potential of the clone at that time, he used the black-robe clone that was refined by his own flesh and blood. But the progress of Chen Daoxian's deity is too fast. Even if the black-robe clone has more resources, it can't keep up with the footsteps of Chen Daoxian's deity. This is also impossible. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic can only be used by the deity alone, and even Chen Daoxian's clone cannot use it. Coupled with the various opportunities he obtained in the true immortal origin realm, it would be a ghost if the black-robe clone could keep up with his footsteps. The black-robe clone walked to Chen Daoxian and stopped. Chen Daoxian raised his hand and synchronized the memories of both sides. Through the memory of the black-robe clone, Chen Daoxian knew about his experience during this time. In general, during the time he went to Taizhou and the true immortal origin realm, the black-robe avatar spent all the time in cultivation. Every day, either refining spiritual energy or using blood crystals to refine the body. As for the Tao of Comprehension, Chen Daoxian finally saw it. Without the help of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, he realized the true speed of the Tao. For nearly a year, the black-robed avatar has been cultivating hard day and night, of which almost half of the time spent comprehending the Tao, but despite this, the opponent's Tao realm has hardly improved. At least in Chen Daoxian's eyes, he could not feel any progress in the Tao realm of the black-robe clone. Before he went to Taizhou, the Avenue realm of the black-robe clone was probably the second highest level of the visible realm, and it was only a line away from the peak of the visible realm. But after nearly a year of hard work, the realm of the Avenue is still a thin line away from the peak of the tangible realm. Chen Daoxian finally understood why Zhou Mingho had been practicing hard for hundreds of years, but he was still trapped in the peak of the tangible realm and could not make an inch. There is no plug-in, relying on oneself alone, it is too difficult to comprehend the Tao. As the cultivation level became higher and higher, Chen Daoxian became more and more aware of the perversion of the golden scriptures in the sea of knowledge. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know the origin of the golden scriptures, the help of the golden scriptures to his practice was really too great. Without the golden scriptures, Chen Daoxian, let alone the invincible Zifu, is still on Shuanghu Island, worrying about the little cultivation resources. It's hard to guess what happens in life. Chen Lang, what did you say? Lori turned her head, nothing. Chen Daoxian smiled, then glanced at the black-robe clone. During this period of time, the only thing that Chen Daoxian was more satisfied with his clone was that the other party had cultivated soul-setting divine light and successfully created the sea of divine light in the sea of consciousness. Although the area of the sea of light of the black-robe clone is far from being comparable to that of the deity, it now has a radius of more than 30 miles. Although it can't compare to the Zifu cultivator, it is much stronger than the average foundation building cultivator. When Chen Daoxian was in the foundation building period, his sea of consciousness reached a radius of 100 miles, not relying on the sea of divine light, but the help of golden scriptures. But unfortunately, when Chen Daoxian broke through the Zifu period, the golden scriptures did not help him open up the sea of knowledge. He didn't know the mystery of this, so he could only use the sea of consciousness that opened up when he built the foundation as a golden inscription. He hated that the house it lived in was too small, and simply wanted to make it bigger. And Chen Daoxian had a hunch that this might be the real purpose of the golden scriptures helping him open up the sea of knowledge when building the foundation. It is also very simple to verify it. When you break through the golden core stage, you will know if it will help you to open up the sea of knowledge. If you don't help, Chen Daoxian's guess is very likely to be the truth. Putting away the distracting thoughts in his mind, Chen Daoxian patted the storage bag on his waist, and took out a treasure tree overflowing with spiritual light, which was the Tao Enlightenment tea tree given to the Chen family by Yang Gongwan. Chen Daoxian gently picked off the 3 remaining leaves on the tea tree, and then put away the tea tree. After breaking Chen Daoxian's sword light, a smile appeared on the face of the Taoist man in white. Congratulations, you are the 971st tester who has reached this point since the 3 Yuan meeting. However, if you want to obtain this inheritance, this is just the beginning, and you must be prepared for this in your heart. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help remembering that he was the 19,769th tester who accepted this inheritance. It sounds like the Sanyuan society, that is, more than 380,000 years ago, there have been more than 10,000 trialists, which is very small. In an average of several decades, there is only one more inheritance tester in this world. But in fact, the inheritance of Wan Xinghai has been here for hundreds of thousands of years, and it was really discovered by the outside world after the Chenyuan sword sect defeated Wan Xinghai. In other words, this inheritance really exists in the world, only for thousands of years. Over thousands of years, there have been nearly 20,000 heritage trialists, and this frequency can be said to be quite high. If it weren't for the fact that this inheritance has a threshold, and the subsequent talent requirements for the inheritance testers are extremely abnormal, I am afraid that the testers will be able to line up to the Chenyuan sword sect. Even if the threshold is so high, there are many testers of this inheritance, such as Yi Wudao, Jiang Chenai and others. If the 2 of them rely on their own understanding, they will not be able to obtain the qualification for the trial at all. The reason why the 2 of them obtained the qualification for the trial was the same as the enlightenment tea that Chen Daoxian drank for Luoli, and they adopted tricks. Actually, Chen Daoxian was able to obtain the qualification for the trial, but also by means of tricks, but this trick he took, almost no one in the world can take it. Of the 20,000 testers, only 971 could reach Chen Daoxian's step. The elimination rate has reached more than 95%, which can be said to be very high. You must know that normally, those who can obtain the qualifications for inheritance trials are inherently extremely talented. If you don't use cheating methods, at least you have to be the top 3 or even the first talent in the Zifu Tianjiao list. Even so, there are still more than 95% elimination rate, which shows how harsh this inheritance is. As soon as the Taoist in white finished speaking, he waved his sleeves, and the scene in front of Chen Daoxian changed instantly. Next moment, a towering tower appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. "This is the Tower of Babel," the Taoist in white said. A flash of reminiscence flashed in his eyes. "This is a small test to accept the inheritance of our sect. Chen Daoxian has come to this day step by step in the inheritance trial space, and he does not believe in the so-called small test in the mouth of Bai Daoist. You know, if there is no Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic to help him hang up, Chen Daoxian may not even pass the first test." The Taoist in white didn't know what he was thinking, and continued, "Before entering the Tongtian Tower, you need to make a choice. Choose." Chen Daoxian's face suddenly showed interest. He was very curious as to what the choice of Taoist Bai Yi was. The Taoist man in white didn't give a shit, he just waved his sleeves again. Suddenly, 3 treasures appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. The first treasure is a small tower. The appearance of this small pagoda is simple and unremarkable, but it exudes a charm that transcends the heavens. Even an ordinary person who has not practiced can see the extraordinariness of this small pagoda. The second treasure is a small flag. Different from the Michin fan in Chen Daoxian's hands, when he saw this small fan, he had a feeling that his soul was shaken out of his body. But the golden scriptures in his consciousness sea were shaken gently, and the feeling of separation from the body suddenly disappeared. You must know that Chen Daoxian is only in the Zifu period now, and the soul has not changed shape, but is still nurtured in the Zifu. At this moment, the soul is out of the body, and it doesn't take a moment or 3 to disappear. For a cultivator, going out of one's body before the nascent soul is no different from courting death. Even at the nascent soul stage, the nascent soul cannot be exposed to the physical body for a long time. If you want to travel between the heavens and the earth for a long time, you must reach the primordial spirit stage. Therefore, Yuanshan Daojun is also called the out-of-body period in some practice books. Chen Daoxian didn't dare to look at Xiaofan again, and turned to the third treasure, which was also the last one. Chapter 297. This is. Chen Daoxian looked at the third treasure and his eyes narrowed. The third treasure, the shape is a picture, this picture is full of stars, it is really beautiful. However, Chen Daoxian felt an incomparably familiar aura on this map, as if there was something in the dark that connected him to this star map. The Taoist in white saw Chen Daoxian's hesitation, but he didn't say a word, letting him choose by himself. Chen Daoxian glanced at the white-clothed Taoist, knowing that he could not get any hints from the other party, so he pointed his finger at the third treasure, which was the star map. "Senior, I choose this treasure." The Taoist man in white nodded. "This picture is called the Star Sword Dao picture, which is copied from a treasure that directly points to the essence of the Dao." He paused and glanced at Chen Daoxian strangely. "You chose this treasure, probably because you think this picture feels the most intimate to you, right?" Hearing this, Chen Daoxian was shocked. Although his heart was shocked, the expression on his face did not change at all, and he said calmly, "This is the first time this junior has seen this picture, why does the senior think that I will feel the most kind to it?" The Taoist man in white smiled slightly, and all pointed out, "Because you have practiced the most basic method of refining gods in my sect, Sea of Divine Light." Sea of Divine Light? Chen Daoxian was stunned. "Isn't it Ding's soul divine light?" The Taoist man in white looked at him with a smile and did not explain. Chen Daoxian frowned, and he carefully recalled the origin of this Ding's soul divine light. Chen Daoxian's ability to obtain the divine power of soul mindfulness was entirely thanks to the help of his knowledge of the golden scriptures in the sea. Speaking of which, this is the second time he has seen the golden scriptures imparting knowledge of exercises to him. The golden scriptures taught him the first magic method, which was naturally the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic that Chen Daoxian relied on. For Chen Daoxian, this practice method is simply the biggest reliance on his practice so far. It can be said that more than 90% of his current achievements are due to this practice. The second cultivation method is Spirit of Divine Light, which is also called Sea of Divine Light by Taoist white clothes. But compared with Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, Sea of Divine Light is too mediocre. Although it can theoretically expand the sea of consciousness of practitioners infinitely, the growth of the Sea of Light does not happen overnight, and requires the accumulation of people who practice this method over time. Moreover, although there is no upper limit to the expansion of Sea of Divine Light in theory, after Chen Daoxian practiced, he found that the cultivation of monks would restrict the expansion of the Sea of Divine Light. For example, Chen Daoxian is currently in the Zifu period. Normally, the sea of knowledge of the Zifu cultivator is about 100 miles in diameter. And Chen Daoxuan's current sea of consciousness has reached a terrifying diameter of more than 700 miles. The greatest credit for this is due to the expansion of the Sea of Divine Light and the expansion of the Sea of Consciousness. But as the Sea of Divine Light continued to expand, Chen Daoxian found that its expansion rate was slowing down. When he first broke through the Purple Palace period, his Sea of Consciousness or the Sea of Divine Light was only 500 miles in diameter. After practicing for nearly a year, the Sea of Consciousness expanded to a diameter of 700 miles. After the Sea of Sacred Light expanded to a diameter of 700 miles, although Chen Daoxian continued to practice hard every day, the speed of progress was extremely slow. At this speed, if Chen Daoxian wants to expand the diameter of the Sea of Divine Light to a distance of 1,000 miles that is comparable to the Sea of Knowledge of the Golden Pill cultivator, I am afraid that it will take more than 100 years of hard work. As for the expansion of 2,000 miles in diameter or even wider, I don't know how long it will take. Chen Daoxian felt that with his cultivation, even if his lifespan was exhausted, he might not necessarily be able to expand to a diameter of 2,000 miles. Because of the expansion of the Sea of God's Light, it will be more difficult as it goes on. Therefore, even though the Sea of Divine Light is a powerful method of refining the gods, and once activated, it can temporarily hold the spirits of others. But compared with the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic given to him by the Golden Scriptures, the two are really far apart. In other words, the difference between Haoyue and Yinghua. It stands to reason that with the urine quality of Golden Scriptures, if Sea of Divine Light is really so unbearable, he knows the Golden Scriptures in the sea and will never take the initiative to teach it to Chen Daoxian. That is to say, Chen Daoxian looked at the star map in front of him. The real role of the Sea of Light is not just to expand the Sea of Consciousness and inspire a beam of light that can fix one's soul. Thinking about it carefully, he obtained the cultivation method of Sea of Divine Light from the hands of Shinju through the Golden Scriptures. Later, he learned from the memory fragments of the fallen immortal that the Sea of Divine Light was a method created by the other party. But looking at it now, it is clear that the fallen immortal lied. Shinjue Jinren may not know as much about the Sea of Divine Light as Chen Daoxian, and his memory has no reference value. And why did the fallen immortal lie? It is clear that this practice method was not created by him, but it is said that he created it, and he is not stingy to inherit this practice method. Unless this practice is not complete. Suddenly, Chen Daoxian felt a lot of things that could not be explained, and instantly solved it. This cultivation technique, shouldn't it be the basic cultivation technique for which Major Force in the upper realms selects disciples? Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's heart thumped. He looked at the star map in front of him, and suddenly became eager. For a long time, although Chen Daoxian has the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic by his side. However, the Qigong method he practiced himself is only the Chenyuan Sword Classic of Chenyuan Zhenzong. It cannot be said that the Chenyuan Sword Sutra is not good. After all, this is a method of qi refining and cultivation that directly points to the true immortals of Mahayana. But compared with Chen Daoxuan's Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, this practice is too inferior. But soon, Chen Daoxian thought again. Sea of Divine Light is a method of refining God. Even if it is a complete Sea of Divine Light, will it involve the method of refining qi? Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian became a little nervous again. Now he is like a poor man standing in front of Baoshan, imagining what treasures are in Baoshan. As everyone knows, if you want to get the treasure in Baoshan, you have to open the door of the treasure first. In a trance, the voice of the white-robed Taoist awakened Chen Daoxian. Are you sure you want to choose this treasure? Chen Daoxian came back to his senses, nodded and said, "Senior, I'm sure." "Good." The Taoist man in white nodded, then waved his hand gently, and the small tower and the small banner in front of him disappeared suddenly, leaving only a star map. "Go!" The Taoist man in white snorted softly, and saw that the star map turned into a light spot, and drilled directly into Chen Daoxuan's Dantian Qi Si. Chen Daoxian was taken aback. He first touched his Dantian, thinking that he is now a conscious body. This is the consciousness space, how could something get into his Dantian again? However, Chen Daoxian did not realize that, in reality, in the sky above his Dantian Qi Si, a picture scroll slowly unfolded. Soon, this picture scroll covered the entire sky above the Dantian Qi Si. In the end, this blank picture directly took in two stars, one large and one small, above Dantian, and these two stars were transformed by Chen Daoxian's space sword intent and Siyu sword intent. In the trial space, the Taoist in white looked at Chen Daoxian, who was checking his Dantian, and said, "Since you have chosen the treasure, let's go to the Tongtian Tower. I hope you can enter this vein." For countless years, in the endless immortal domain, the Taoist man in white has seen too many geniuses. In his image, Chen Daoxuan's talent is not even middle class. He had seen someone who became an immortal in one day, and even someone who was born a golden immortal. Compared with the existence of these incomparably talented monsters, Chen Daoxian, a seeker who has risen little by little from a mortal, is really not much different from an ant. Hearing the words of the Taoist in white clothes, Chen Daoxian didn't bother to look at it anymore. Watching Chen Daoxian slowly walk into the tower gate, the Taoist man in white murmured, "Hopefully, you can worship at the entrance." In the empty and silent trial space, his voice was barely audible. "Step into the first floor of the Babel Tower." The scene in front of Chen Daoxian changed. Shaking his dizzy head, Chen Daoxian found that there was a mountain forest in front of him. It's just that Fang Tiandi has an extremely terrifying pressure on him. Chen Daoxian found that even the mana in his body became extremely stagnant when he was here. Chen Daoxian tried to release his mana, but he was horrified to find that Fang Tiandi was too restrictive on him, and he couldn't even release his mana. Chen Daoxuan's heart sank, and he once again released his common sense. Consciousness can stick out of the body, but it can only extend to 7 meters outside the body. Yes, 7 meters, definitely less than 8 meters. You must know that in the outside world, Chen Daoxian can extend his consciousness more than 700 miles outside the body. What kind of perverted world is this? Chen Daoxian was stunned. Just when he felt extremely uncomfortable, there was a strange shouting and screaming in his ears. "Your Majesty asked me to patrol the mountains, oh hoo hoo, after patrolling the Nanshan and the North Mountain, oh hoo hoo." The sharp and piercing voice made Chen Daoxuan's scalp tingle. Danger! Chen Daoxuan's heart was full of alarms, and he immediately wanted to display the state of 3 heads and 6 arms. It is a pity that the 3 heads and 6 arms that can be easily displayed in the outside world can be transformed into a Dharma image with a height of 10 feet. At this moment, even the 3 heads and 6 arms of normal height cannot be displayed. Chen Daoxian couldn't care about this. He hurriedly called out Feishua's sword. Fortunately, his natal flying sword can be used. Chen Daoxian held the flying snow sword in one hand and looked at the monster in front of him intently. The monster in front of him has not yet transformed. Although it is a human body, its head does look like a strange beast. Based on the experience of the outside world, the untransformed monsters are not as powerful as the nascent soul monks of the human race. With the strength of Chen Daoxian, they are not afraid of the other party at all. However, Chen Daoxian felt a fatal threat on the other side, and even the golden scriptures that had been calm all shook rarely. "Who are you?" Chen Daoxuan's eyes narrowed slightly. The little demon in front of him did not answer, but tilted his head and said, "Little Taoist priest, who are you?" Saying that, he waved his hand at will. "Forget it, no matter who you are, grab it back and eat it first. Seeing how tender and white you are, it must be delicious." Saying that, the monster actually drooled out of its mouth. Chen Daoxian couldn't resist the whim of the crazy warning, and he raised his sword and stabbed the monster. Although he was suppressed by this world, Chen Daoxian's speed was still very fast. From the outsider's point of view, only a phantom flashed away. But in the eyes of this monster, Chen Daoxian's speed was surprisingly slow, and he saw that it gently fiddled with Chen Daoxian's flying snow sword with the iron stick in his hand, and then struck Chen Daoxian's head with the stick. Chen Daoxian only felt the darkness in front of him, and completely lost consciousness. When Chen Daoxian regained consciousness again, he was already outside the Tongtian Tower. The Taoist in white is now in front of him, looking at Chen Daoxian, who is breathing heavily. The Taoist in white chuckles. "How do you feel?" Chen Daoxian gasped for a few breaths and said unwillingly, "The world in the Tongtian Tower has suppressed me too much, and I can't even exert 1% of my strength." Hearing this, the white-robed Taoist shook his head and said, "That world suppresses all living beings the same. You can't beat the opponent in that world, and you are also not an opponent when you come here." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian frowned. Although he didn't want to admit it, the gap between his strength and the little mountain patrolling demon was too great. The other party just smashed his head with a light stick. Chen Daoxian didn't even see how the other party shot. For a long time, Chen Daoxian was almost in a crushing position against the enemy, and this was the first time he was abused without the ability to fight back. More importantly, the feeling of dying inside the Babel is all too real. Although the illusion of the Linglong Pagoda of the 9 ruins of the family can also simulate a similar illusion, it is definitely not so real. With golden scriptures, Chen Daoxian's immunity to illusions is quite high. But in the Tongtian Tower, he really felt the threat of death, otherwise, he would not be crazy about the golden scriptures in the sea. Could it be that the world in the Tongtian Tower is real? Chen Daoxian was startled by his own thoughts, but he immediately denied himself. "But how is this possible? I am a conscious body entering it, how can I have a real body?" Shaking his head, Chen Daoxian no longer thought about it. This trip to the Tower of Babel was indeed a big blow to him. Chapter 298. Chen Lang. Chen Lang. In a trance, an anxious call came from Chen Daoxian's ear. A long time. Chen Daoxian's consciousness gradually woke up. The blurred vision gradually became clear, and a few feet away from his face, a beautiful face came into Chen Daoxian's eyes. It's just that this beautiful face is full of worry and anxiety. Seeing Luo Li's sobbing appearance, Chen Daoxian raised his hand, rubbed his painful temple, and comforted, "Don't worry, I'm fine." Seeing that Chen Daoxian was conscious, Luo Li suddenly burst into laughter. She touched Chen Daoxian's forehead and his chest again with her white and tender hand, and said eagerly, "You are a cultivator of Zifu, with a strong sense of consciousness, how could you pass out of a coma?" Chen Daoxian thought for a while, "Maybe, it's this exercise that I just acquired, it's a bit complicated." Gong method? Chen Daoxian didn't explain too much, and instead asked, "How is it? Have you qualified for the trial?" As he spoke, there was a look of anticipation in his eyes. If Luo Li couldn't get the qualification for the trial even with 3 pieces of enlightenment tea, even if he used the preaching function to open up Luo Li, it would be difficult. After all, preaching to outsiders takes 10 days to improve one's comprehension within 1 stick of incense. And 3 pieces of enlightenment tea leaves can improve the cultivator's comprehension for an hour and a half. Even if the effect of enlightenment tea to improve understanding may not be as good as that of preaching, it is better than time. Obtaining the qualification for inheritance trials requires long-term understanding, not a short-lived epiphany. Because the Taoist in white taught the sword art, one after another, with a long time interval in between. Luo Li looked at Chen Daoxian's concerned eyes, her rosy mouth pursed slightly, and her pretty face had a hint of pride, and said, "Look." I saw Luo Li's fair eyebrows, a golden pattern appeared, which is the symbol of Wan Xinghai's inheritance testers. Looking at Luo Li's small expression begging for praise, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but scratched her nose with his hand, and said indulgently, "My lady is the most capable, she did a great job." It was the first time that Luo Li heard the name Nyangzi in Chen Daoxian's ears. For a while, she felt extremely sweet in her heart. This feeling was 1,000 times happier than when she obtained the Wan Xinghai inheritance trial qualification. Seeing Luo Li's delightful appearance, Chen Daoxian felt happy from the bottom of his heart. Luo Li's current cultivation is the same as his, reaching the 9th floor of the Purple Mansion. Normally, the 9th floor cultivator of the Purple Mansion should consider the matter of forming a pill. But before Luo Li's Dao realm, even the first invisible realm has not been reached. At this moment, Luo Li will fail 100%. Although with the help of Chen Daoxuan's preaching, Luo Li spent dozens or hundreds of years, and will definitely reach the 3rd stage of star transformation. But after tens of hundreds of years, what realm should Chen Daoxian reach? You must know that Chen Daoxian has only been practicing for less than 30 years. It took 100 years to form a pill, which may be a dream for other cultivators of Zifu. But for Chen Daoxian, it was simply unacceptable. Therefore, Chen Daoxian wanted to find another shortcut for Luo Li. This shortcut is the inheritance trial of Wan Xinghai. For others, Wan Xinghai's inheritance trial requires too much comprehension. However, Chen Daoxian has the preaching function of the Hongmeng Enlightenment scripture, and there are treasures such as enlightenment tea leaves. Compared with other inheritance trials, Luo Li has a much greater advantage. Sure enough, as expected by Chen Daoxian, Luo Li successfully obtained the inheritance trial qualification. However, Chen Daoxian knew that the qualifications for inheritance trials at the beginning were only the lowest level, with only a few trials. Once you fail to pass the trial assessment within the specified number of trials, you will be withdrawn from the trial qualification. Now Luo Li's trial qualification is this one. After listening to Chen Daoxuan's explanation, Luo Li nodded quickly. It seems so. This divine pattern between my eyebrows tells me that I only have the qualifications for 2 trials. Twice. Chen Daoxian was quite surprised. You actually qualified for 2 trials in the first trial? This time, Chen Daoxian was really shocked by Luo Li. When he participated in the inheritance trial here for the first time, he was only qualified for 2 trials. Chen Daoxian was finally able to obtain the qualification for infinite inheritance trials, or because Jie Yuanzhu provided him with a large number of comprehension stars, which kept him in a state of epiphany. Could it be that this inheritance has different standards for different races? Chen Daoxian couldn't help thinking that Luo Li was a merman. Although she had human blood, she was no longer the same race as the human. Chen Lang, what's wrong? Fine, Chen Daoxian smiled and said, you can qualify for 2 trials for the first time. Madam, you are much more powerful than I imagined. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's sincere compliments, Luo Li lowered her head and said awkwardly, how can they be as powerful as you said? Seeing Luo Li's shy appearance, Chen Daoxian, in a good mood, hugged her into his arms, kissed her tender and pretty face, and said firmly, of course, the lady is so powerful, you will accompany her in the future. Follow me, become immortal together, and be that immortal companion. Hearing this, Luo Li, who was lying in Chen Daoxuan's arms, raised her head, looked at Chen Daoxuan's side face, and murmured, becoming an immortal, can we really become immortals? There have been no Mahayana true immortals in this world for hundreds of thousands of years. Chen Daoxian lowered his head, looked at the beautiful woman in his arms, then raised his head again, looked at the starry sky above his head, and said to himself, yes. Definitely. Feeling Chen Daoxuan's unshakable belief, Luo Li buried her little head deeply in his arms. At this moment, she felt that even if she died, she would have no regrets in her life. Chen Daoxian didn't know what was in Luo Li's heart, and his mood at the moment was unprecedentedly high. Although he supported the Chen family cultivator, in the eyes of the family cultivator, Chen Daoxian was the patriarch and the omnipotent god. But Chen Daoxian knew how weak the background was, whether it was the Chen family or himself. Not to mention that compared with the big sects like Chenyuan Jianzong, even compared with the Yuanian clan that dominates one state, the Chen family is also too far away. Can such a family really give birth to a Mahayana true immortal? Even Chen Daoxian owns the treasure of golden scriptures. But if this world can no longer give birth to a Mahayana true immortal, what should he do? The limits of the world are the most deadly. This is what Chen Daoxian realized on the first floor of Tongtian Tower. In this world, his spiritual consciousness can be extended for 700 miles at will, but on the first floor of the Tongtian Tower, he can only extend his spiritual consciousness to 7 meters outside the body, and he cannot even release his mana. A dignified cultivator from the Purple House, turned into a martial arts master. Although Chen Daoxian hadn't tried it, he doubted whether he could fly with Yu Jian in the world on the first floor of Tongtian Tower. The reason why Chen Daoxian is high now is because of the inheritance of Wan Xinghai. Through the various inheritance trials, Chen Daoxian can now be 100% sure that this inheritance trial is the selection of disciples by a top-level force in the upper realm. Perhaps, for this top-level force, such inheritance trials are all over the heavens and the world. Anyway, it's not just the world where Chen Daoxian is now. Especially when he got the treasure of the Star Kendo map, he became more and more sure of this. Strictly speaking, the Xingqian Kendo map is a special pure yang fairy weapon. It is a pure yang fairy artifact imitated by copying a treasure that points directly to the avenue. Of course, compared to the normal pure yang immortal artifact, the Xingqian Kendo map is more like a growing pure yang immortal artifact. Although its power is far less than that of ordinary pure yang fairy weapons, this treasure has infinite possibilities. Through the information from the Stars Kendo map, Chen Daoxian learned that if this map was improved to the extreme, he would have the qualification to use that treasure. As for the name of the treasure, it was not disclosed in the inheritance of Xingqian Kendo 2. As the Chen family's power became stronger and stronger, his status became higher and higher, and he felt more and more admiration for the sect master of Chenyuan Sword Sect. After all, if he dared to take the risk of the world and win a chance for countless scattered cultivators, he was the only one in the entire Wangxinghai. Even in the entire immortal cultivation world, there is only one person. The two stayed for a while. Chen Daoxian lifted Luo Li's soft body and said, "Let's digest what we have gained in the inheritance first. Now is not the time for us to enjoy it." Hearing this, Luo Li was shocked. She knew the meaning of Chen Daoxuan's words. Not only Chen Daoxuan's big goal of becoming an immortal, it can be a few years as fast as it can be as slow as 10 years. Chenyuan Jianzong must take back Zenengguan, and Sangzhou cultivator recovered Zenengguan. Main force. In order to make this trip absolutely safe, Chen Daoxian must break through to the golden core stage before that. Thinking of this, Luo Li didn't care about Wen Siyuan. She stood up quickly and said, "Chen Lang, you can practice with peace of mind, and the slave family will protect you." Chen Daoxian shook his head and said with a smile, "There is no need to protect the law for me, there is him." He tilted his head and glanced at the black-robed clone sitting not far away, like a stone. "Ma'am, you can practice with peace of mind. You have just realized the sword intent of water movement, so you should consolidate it well." Luo Li glanced at the black-robed clone and nodded, "Okay, I'll listen to your husband." This was the first time she called Mrs. Chen Daoxian, and her ears turned red. Chen Daoxuan's heart swayed violently when he saw her beautiful and delicious look, then he stopped his impulse, nodded and continued to retreat. Chen Daoxian retreated, of course, for the treasure of the Xingqian Kendo map. Chen Daoxian was in a coma just now, because too much information came from the Xingqian Kendo map at one time, so that the sea of knowledge could not bear it, and he fainted directly. Of course, it is impossible to be dangerous. After all, Chen Daoxuan's sea of consciousness has golden scriptures, and he is still very confident in this uncle in the sea of consciousness. With a little bit of sorting out the information in the sea of knowledge, Chen Daoxian finally knew what kind of treasure the Xingqian Kendo map was. According to his own understanding, the Xingqian Kendo map is a map of raising swords. This picture pays attention to the picture raising the sword, and the sword raising the picture, so that the two enhance each other to the extreme. First of all, it is the picture to raise the sword. The sword here refers not only to the ordinary fairy sword, but also to the sword intent. That's right, it was the space sword intent and the CU sword intent that were included in the Stars Kendo map. This picture can not only cultivate the immortal sword in the real sense, but also integrate the sword intent into the immortal sword, and directly enhance the sword intent by cultivating the immortal sword. Doesn't this mean that in the future, I won't even have to comprehend the Tao, and I can directly cultivate the immortal sword through this picture? Chen Dao Xian is a sword cultivator, and the realm of Kendo is the realm of the Tao. And the realm of Kendo, from the first invisible realm, the second visible realm, the third realm of star transformation, to the fifth realm of law, and the sixth realm of world. It refers to the change of sword intent. Only in the realm of the fourth realm, the sword intent itself has not changed much. As he continued to comprehend, Chen Daoxian finally understood what this picture of raising a sword meant. To put it simply, the practitioner only needs to put a fairy sword and the corresponding sword intent into the star's kendo diagram, and then this diagram will integrate the invisible sword intent with the real fairy sword. In the future, if you improve the grade of the fairy sword, you will be able to improve the level of sword intent. Can you still practice like this? Chen Daoxian was stunned. Originally, he thought that Hongmeng Enlightenment Dao Jing was enough to improve his understanding, but he turned out to be an even more perverted one. After realizing this, Chen Daoxian couldn't wait to call out the two Bing immortal swords in Z Mansion. Immediately afterwards, he called out the star's kendo map in his dantian. As the star's kendo map slowly unfolded, Chen Daoxian saw the two sword intents he understood outside the body for the first time, two stars, one big and one small, twinkling on the kendo map. Chen Daoxian couldn't care less, and directly threw Feishue and Qingying swords into the picture. As the Xingqian kendo map swallowed the two swords, the two stars in the picture also slowly swam towards the Feishue and Qingying swords. I saw that the space sword intent was integrated into the Qingying sword, and the Siyu sword intent was integrated into the Feishue sword. At the moment when the two sword intents merged into the two flying swords, as the owner of the flying swords, Chen Daoxian clearly sensed that his sense of the two flying swords disappeared. At this moment, Fei Shui and Qingying's two immortal swords turned into a special existence that had both form and no form. Sword intent is immortal sword is sword intent, so it is. Chen Daoxian muttered. But immediately, Chen Daoxian was shocked, and he thought of a serious question: is the level of sword intent can be improved by raising the rank of the immortal sword? Then my Chen family must not go bankrupt. Chapter 299. Inheritance Trial Space. The Taoist in white looked at Chen Daoxian, who had only been offline for less than a day, and frowned. Why are you here again? I said, with your current cultivation level, you are still far from reaching Tongtian Tower. Even if it is the first floor of Tongtian Tower, you must at least have nascent soul cultivation to try it out. Chen Daoxian shook his head, reporting to the seniors, the juniors are not oversight. They came to break through the Sky Tower, but the juniors are just wondering. Doubtful? Exactly. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath. The younger generation has always believed that there is no shortcut to comprehend the laws of the Tao. But today, this star map obtained by the younger generation makes the younger generation a little confused. If the rank of the immortal sword can be improved, the sword intent and the Tao level can be improved. What is the meaning of the younger generation and thousands of monks, who are struggling to understand the Tao and seek the Tao? You are here for this? The white-robed Taoist chuckled. Why do you think that your penance must be meaningful? Your heels can be described as extremely poor. You are just a mere mortal. You have worked hard for 100 and 1,000 years to realize the Tao, and you are not even as good as a monk with a slightly better heel. What's more, you are born to be the golden immortal fruit rank. What is the significance of your efforts compared with such existences? Chen Daoxian frowned deeply. As far as you are concerned, the Xingqian Kendo map is just a shortcut for you. In the past, you had to study hard to improve the realm of the Tao. Now you can not only improve the realm of the Tao through enlightenment, but also improve the realm of the Tao through treasure refining. It seems that the road is much smoother, but compared with those living beings with extraordinary feet who are born with innate spiritual treasures, you are not. What? Boy, you should recognize yourself clearly, don't think highly of yourself, and don't look down on yourself. These words, like thunder, exploded in Chen Daoxuan's heart. I have to say that, although Chen Daoxian did not show it on his face, he always felt that he was the son of luck and the pride of heaven. Crossing, golden scripture, gold finger. All of this shows that he is the protagonist of the novel. But at the moment when he got the star's kendo map, Chen Daoxian felt that he was hit. He can use the Hongmeng Enlightenment Sutra to improve his comprehension to quickly comprehend the Tao, and other monks can also use treasures like the Star Sword Tao map to improve the realm of the Tao while refining treasures. It was hard for Chen Daoxian to judge which of the two was higher or lower. But obviously, this method is as incredible as the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. What is even more terrifying is that the faction to which the Taoist in white belongs can actually replicate this method in batches. After a long time, Chen Daoxian took a step back, bowed deeply to the Taoist man in white, and said sincerely, "Junior, please be taught." "Go." The Taoist man in white waved his hand lightly. Watching Chen Daoxian disappear in front of him, a smile appeared on the face of the Taoist man in white, Gu Jing Bubo. Consciousness returned to his body again. Chen Daoxian felt the rapidly transforming sword intent, stood up and said, "Luo Li, I want to retreat." "Okay." After pondering for a moment, Chen Daoxian continued, "Before the retreat, do something for me." Luo Li nodded quickly. "Chen Lang, you are instructed." Chen Daoxian took out a token from the storage bag that symbolized the identity of the patriarch of the Chen family, handed it to Luo Li, and said, "Take this token and go to the Chen family to transfer enough spirit stones to transfer the spirit of the magic ape mountain. The pulse is promoted to the 4th rank." "What?" Luo Li was stunned when she heard this. You must know that the spiritual veins of Shuanghu Island are only 3rd-order spiritual veins now. The hundreds of Zifu cultivators newly born in the Chen family rely on the essence of vitality for promotion. Otherwise, relying on the spiritual veins, the Chen family does not know when so many Zifu cultivators will be born. But Chen Daoxian now has no excess vitality essence in his hand, and even if he has it, it is useless. After the vitality essence is taken out, it will dissipate within a few months at most. Therefore, to break through the golden core, he must rely on the 4th-order spiritual veins. The spirit vein rank of Demon Ape Mountain is only 3rd rank, which is not enough to support Chen Daoxian to break through the golden pill. Luo Li is also a decisive person. She knows that this matter is related to Chen Daoxuan's path, and she does not dare to neglect. After a brief surprise, she immediately nodded, "Chen Lang, don't worry, leave this matter to me." Watching Luo Li leave, Chen Daoxian ordered the black robe to go to the cave next door to retreat, and he also walked to the cave he opened. Inside the cave. As soon as Chen Daoxian sat down, his body was shocked, and he suddenly focused his attention on the Star Sword Tao map in his dantian. He found that the space sword intent on the kendo map has been promoted to the 3rd high level. So fast! Chen Daoxian muttered. His space sword intent and Siyu sword intent were originally only the 3rd middle level. Under the cultivation of the star's kendo diagram, his 2 sword intents improved rapidly, and soon broke through to the 3rd high level. My Flying Snow Sword and Qingying Sword are 4th-rank top-grade swords, so I will soon be able to step into the realm of the Tao realm. Chen Daoxian was a little hard to adapt to, feeling the way to improve the realm of the Tao faster than the opening of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Book of Tao. There are more than 900 people in this world who have obtained this inheritance. It seems that the water in this world is deeper than I imagined. Chen Daoxian secretly guessed. Even if hundreds of thousands of years have passed, and a large number of people have died, the ones who are alive must be the top existences in this world. Although the Qianyuan sword sect became the master of Wan Xinghai, the inheritance of Wan Xinghai became well known, but in the past few thousand years, very few have reached the step of Chen Daoxian. It is the geniuses who have accumulated hundreds of thousands of years who can really reach Chen Daoxuan's point. The reason is very simple. In the early years, the inheritance of Wan Xinghai was not exposed, and those who could obtain the qualifications for the trial were all true geniuses. After Chen Yuan Jianzong entered Wanxinghai, although the inheritance here was exposed, the people who came to accept this inheritance trial were too low-level. For example, Luo Li. Normally, Luo Li is impossible to obtain the qualification for the trial. But she just obtained the qualification for the trial by virtue of the treasure of enlightenment tea and tea leaves. The same goes for the arrogance of other forces in Wanxinghai, such as Yi Wudao, Jiang Chenai and others. But using this tricky method to obtain the qualification for the trial is destined to not go far. After all, the treasures that can temporarily increase comprehension are very precious. Even if it is a big power, it is impossible for the disciples and the clan to use it all the time. This is also the reason why Yi Wudao and Jiang Chenai swayed around with the divine runes of the inheritance trials, but they dared not accept the inheritance trials again. Because they know that with their talent, once they are tested again, they are likely to be eliminated. Only by reaching the step of Chen Daoxian can he be regarded as the seed player inherited here. There are more than 900 people in this world. No, there shouldn't be 900 people. Chen Daoxian shook his head. I don't know how many seeded players I have in Wanxinghai. In fact, as long as the other party is not exposed, no one knows who got one of these 3 treasures in Wanxinghai. Just when Chen Daoxian sighed, Chen Daoxuan's body shook again. Dao territory. This is a breakthrough. Chen Daoxian felt a little dumbfounded. I knew earlier, should I spend all my family property and buy a 5th-order fairy sword? In this way, wouldn't my Dao realm quickly reach the Law realm? Of course, Chen Daoxian regretted less than a moment. The 5th-order fairy sword is a treasure that Yuaning Zhenjuan is qualified to hold. Even if the Chen family had enough spirit stones, unless they used the favor of the Hall Master of Zhenhai Palace, they would never be able to buy this kind of treasure. For treasures suitable for Yuanying Zhenjuan, generally Yuanying cultivators will not use spirit stones to trade directly, but use the power of good fortune as a general equivalent. Only the treasures that true monarch nascent soul cannot use will they trade with spirit stones. If you want to use spirit stones to buy the 5th-order immortal sword used by Yuanying Zhenjuan, unless you encounter a situation where Yuanying Zhenjuan is very urgent and needs a lot of spirit stones. This situation is unpredictable. Now the Xingqian Kendo map is integrated into the Tubong 4th-order high-grade immortal sword. In theory, my Dao realm can be directly promoted to the high level of Daoyu realm. This Dao realm surpasses Fairy Qi Yao. Chen Daoxian thought for a while. Now that I have broken through the golden core stage, I just need to make up for the lack of body refinement. As long as the body refining cultivation base breaks through to the realm of rebirth from a broken skull, you can form a pill. Chen Daoxian unfolded his own Dao domain while combing. In just a split second, Chen Daoxuan's Dao territory expanded for a radius of 700 miles. The next moment, 2 stars, one big and one small, were suppressed in the Dao domain, which were the 2 sword intents that Chen Daoxian understood. When I saw Fairy Qiao cast the time domain, I didn't see her time sword intent. Chen Daoxian thought about it for a while, and he felt blessed. 2 stars, one big and one small, disappeared in the Taoist realm in an instant, and returned to the Kendo map of the stars in Dantian. I see, Chen Daoxian nodded. Without the filling of sword intent, the power of Daoyu suddenly dropped a lot. Immediately, he tried to call out the space sword intent, and the Daoyu power reached 80% of the heyday. With the addition of the Siyu sword intent, the Daoyu power was directly filled. This repressive force is even more powerful than Fairy Qiao's time domain. Chen Daoxian was not too surprised when he saw this. After all, Fairy Qiao's time Dao domain was only the first stage of Dao domain realm, which was comparable to him. But Fairy Qiao only comprehends one kind of sword intent. Naturally it is not as good as Chen Daoxian, who has comprehended 2 kinds of sword intent. Although the power of the Siyu sword intent is far less than that of the time sword intent, his space sword intent is not inferior at all. What if, call out the star Kendo map? For some reason, Chen Daoxuan's heartbeat accelerated, and he felt that the star sword Dao map seemed to match the Dao domain. Do it when you think of it. This time, Chen Daoxian called out the Xingqian Kendo map directly. Suddenly, a picture scroll spanning the heavens and the earth instantly unfolded on the bottom of the Wangxinghai Sea. When encountering high-level monks, it is not bad that he can match them. Don't look at Chen Daoxuan's defeat of Jiang Zui, the seventh elder of the Jiang family, but that was Jiang Zu's intention, and the opponent's ability was restrained by Chen Daoxian in all aspects. Otherwise, once Jiang Zu understood Chen Daoxuan's weakness, if the two fought again, the outcome would be unpredictable. But now, even if Jiang Zu is 10 times stronger, Chen Daoxian can easily suppress the opponent. Stepping into the Dao domain realm, his strength has increased sharply, plus the Star Sword Dao map. At least within the 132 breaths of using the Star's Kendo chart, he is a genuine Yuaning Jinjuan. Inside the secret room. Although Chen Daoxuan's dantian was empty, his face was as pale as paper. But his eyes were very bright. Now, go all out to break through to the Golden Core stage. My Chen family has been dormant for long enough, it's time for a blockbuster. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian was very motivated. He patted the storage bag on his waist lightly, and a large pile of blood marrow was piled up in front of him. These blood marrow were obtained by the true immortal origin realm. Although the blood marrow is not as obvious as the vitality essence to improve the qi cultivation base, its help to the cultivator's body refining is more than half a star stronger than that of the blood crystal. Chen Daoxian estimated that with the pile of blood marrow in front of him, he would be able to improve his body training to the realm of rebirth from a broken skull. Chapter 300. Demon Mountains. Inside a cave house. A young man with a naked body. Next to the man, there was a pile of blood-colored stones the size of a hill. Compared with blood crystals, these blood-colored stones are not only darker in color, but also filled with a chaotic will that disturbs people's minds, as if countless mournful wailing gathered together. Kill! 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 Die! I want you to die. Chen Daoxuan's face was calm, and he merged the blood marrow into his body, and his heart was like a knife, destroying all the chaotic wills. I do not know how long it has been. Call. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes, it's the limit. Feeling the terrifying physical power, Chen Daoxian felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction in his heart. Compared with the mana of Zifu, the physical power brought by body training seemed more real. This kind of feeling that one fist can stab a hole in the sky is more real and powerful than the nihilistic power of mana. Is this the realm of rebirth from the broken skull? Such a terrifying power is actually only equivalent to the qi refining cultivation in the Zizifu period. As Chen Daoxuan's soul revolved, he quickly grasped the skyrocketing power after the breakthrough of his body training. It seems that refining the gods can not only make the consciousness stronger, but also allow the monks to better control their own power. As a burst of enlightenment came to his mind, Chen Daoxian suddenly had a deeper understanding of body refining, qi refining, and spiritual refining. With a breakthrough in his body training, Chen Daoxian stood up from the futon. As the body stood up, the futon that was sitting cross-legged directly turned into ashes. This. Looking at the futon that was affected by the breakthrough of the body refining cultivation base, Chen Daoxian shook his head. It seems that my control of the physical strength is not as perfect as I imagined. Although compared with qi refining, Chen Daoxuan's body refining is only equivalent to the first floor of Zifu, and he is still very immature. However, in an environment where body training is generally not taken seriously in this world, Chen Daoxuan's body training practice of rebirth from a broken skull in the Zifu period is already invaluable. Even the direct disciples of many major sects have the same qi cultivation base, and body cultivation base is not as good as Chen Daoxian. The cultivation of the body has reached the realm of rebirth from the broken skull, the realm of the avenue has reached the high level of the realm, and the mana of the Zifu has also been tempered to the limit state, which can be broken through at any time. After 3 years of dormancy in the demonic ape mountain, Chen Daoxian has done his best to prepare for the formation of elixir. Beside her, a sturdy middle-aged merman comforted, Don't worry, with the background of Dao Xian, breaking through the golden elixir is not easy to catch. Although Luo Xiuyuan didn't know what Chen Daoxuan's Dao state had reached, he knew about Chen Daoxuan's record. Chen Daoxuan's reputation for being able to overwhelm the heroes in the true immortal origin realm has long been spread among the cultivators of the Zifu. At that time, the outside world speculated that Qianyuan Jianzong would definitely set Chen Daoxian in the top 3 of the Zifu Tianjiao list. The results were not as expected. After the true immortal origin realm, Qianyuan Jianzong redrawn the ranking of the Zifu Tianjiao list. Chen Daoxian ranked second, and Fairy Qiyao was the first. Fairy Qiyao's avenue has reached the 4th realm, which is indeed better than Chen Daoxian, who only had the 3rd realm at the time. But now, feeling the increasingly depressing atmosphere around him, Luo Xiuyuan, who had tried to break through the golden core stage several times, immediately understood what was going on and turned his head and shouted at Luo Li, "Liar, go back. Father, it's the golden core thunder tribulation." Luo Xiu looked dignified from afar. What? Hearing the golden core thunder tribulation, Luo Li's face was both surprised and worried. She was surprised by the success of AI Lang's formation, and worried that the Jindan thunder tribulation was so powerful that it would hurt AI Lang. Seeing his daughter's concern, Luo Xiuyuan pulled Luo Li back and said, "You can rest assured, if he can't survive the golden core thunder tribulation, who else in this world can achieve golden core cultivation?" Having said that, Luo Li should still be worried. As Luo Xiuyuan judged, Chen Daoxuan's formation of the pill was unprecedentedly smooth. His breakthrough, rather than a breakthrough, might as well be called water overflowing. Because compared with other cultivators of the Purple Mansion, Chen Daoxian, the Purple Mansion cultivator, has accumulated too much. The Dao realm in the high section of the Dao realm, the body-refining cultivation in the skull-smashing rebirth realm, and the soul that is close to the real person of Jindan. Let Chen Daoxian be unable to advance under the cultivation of the Zifu period. This terrifying accumulation caused Chen Daoxian to run the Qianyuan Sword Sutra just now, ready to break through the golden elixir period. Countless mana poured into his Dantian Purple Mansion, and formed a round golden core with lightning speed. With the condensation of the golden core, his mana transformed again, from the limit state Zifu mana, to the golden core mana, and the power was enhanced. Not only that, in the high Dao realm of the 4th realm, his golden core mana is still being further tempered and strengthened. It's just that this kind of tempering is not achieved overnight, and it is estimated that it will take a few years before the tempering is completely completed. In other words, in the past few years, Chen Daoxuan's strength will continue to improve. It has to be said that Chen Daoxuan's breakthrough to the golden core stage this time is easier than his previous breakthrough to the Purple Palace. As for ordinary cultivators who need medicinal pills to assist in breakthroughs, it does not exist for Chen Daoxian at all. With his accumulation, he no longer needs to use medicine pills. If he hadn't deliberately suppressed it and wanted to stabilize his hand, let his body refinement break through first, and then break through the golden core stage, it is estimated that he would have become a golden core cultivator 2 or 3 years ago. Boom! Chen Daoxian flew straight into the sky, drilled a big hole in the cave with his head, and drilled directly out of the mountain. Standing in the sky, Chen Daoxian saw Luo Li and the others who had retreated 100 miles away at a glance. He nodded to Luo Li and said to the two of them, "You can retreat another 500 miles. What? Before Luo Li could react, Luo Xiuyuan immediately pulled Luo Li back. "Let's go." For the 2 Zifu cultivators, the distance of 500 miles came in an instant. Seeing Luo Li and Luo Xiu retreating 500 miles away, Chen Daoxian calmed down. He could feel that the power of his golden core thunder tribulation was much stronger than Zhou Minghe. But Chen Daoxian was not afraid at all. Because compared to Zhou Minghe, his accumulation is more than 100 times that of the other party. If even he can't survive the golden core thunder tribulation, it is estimated that no one in this world can survive this calamity. Just as Chen Daoxian had expected, Jian directly enveloped the radius of 500 miles. Within 500 miles, Chen Daoxian was naked, standing under the robbery cloud, as small as an ant. But it was this ant that exuded a terrifying aura that made even the thunder tribulation cloud tremble. Seemingly provoked by Chen Daoxuan's arrogant attitude, the first thunder tribulation struck down at Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxuan's entire body was bathed in the pillar of thunder. That's it. After reaching the Skull Crush rebirth realm, Chen Daoxian felt like he was soaking in a hot spring, which was a deadly calamity for ordinary monks. Not to mention the damage, he even disliked the hot spring's water temperature. He shook his head. This level of calamity of the physical body doesn't have the effect of tempering the physical body for me, so don't waste time. With that said, his body trembled slightly, and the pillar of thunder was directly shaken away by his terrifying physical strength. Seeing this incredible scene, Luo Shuyuan couldn't help opening his mouth and murmured, "The thunder tribulation was shaken away? Great!" Seeing that Chen Daoxian was extremely relaxed, Luo Li's heart was finally put back in her stomach. Next, the second mana robbery and the third divine soul robbery. Under Chen Daoxuan's mana and soul, which was comparable to or even surpassed that of the Golden Core Cultivator, it was all easy to pass. Luo Shuyuan looked at Chen Daoxian crossing the Golden Core Thunder Tribulation, and it was not like the death or life recorded in the ancient books of the clan at all. If it wasn't for Chen Daoxian being naked, he would even think that the other party was here to play. It's too easy. Luo Shuyuan was still in disbelief. Not only Luo Shuyuan couldn't believe it, but hundreds of miles away, a Zifu period clear water ape was hiding at the foot of a mountain, secretly peeping at Chen Daoxuan's tribulation. In its view, no matter how strong this Zifu cultivator is, he will not be found hundreds of miles away. And this Zifu clear water monkey is none other than a neighbor of the mermaid clan. He is the patriarch of the clear water monkey clan, who is entrenched on a third-order spiritual vein near the magic monkey mountain. Back then, when Chen Daoxian was building his foundation, he had a face-to-face meeting with the patriarch of the Zifu period clear water monkey clan. It's just that the other party was shocked by Chen Daoxian pulling the Zhenhai Hall banner. Unexpectedly, this one was actually attracted by the movement of Mo Yuanshan this time, and rushed to die. In the eyes of the patriarch of the clear water monkey, it is hundreds of miles away from Chen Daoxian, and the other party has not yet succeeded in transcending the calamity. With the other party's consciousness, it is impossible to find it. As everyone knows, before Chen Daoxian broke through the Jindan stage, the range of his consciousness reached 700 miles. After breaking through the Golden Core stage, the soul was nurtured in the Golden Core, and the spiritual consciousness immediately more than doubled, reaching a distance of 1,500 miles. The patriarch of the clear water monkey thought that Chen Daoxian would not be able to find it after being separated by hundreds of miles. He was simply ignorant. Courting death. Hundreds of miles away, a thunderstorm sounded in the ears of the clear water monkey patriarch, and then his entire body exploded into a cloud of blood. The next moment, a golden light flashed back. It is the Qingying sword that Chen Daoxian merged into the Xingqian Kendo map. Today's Qingying sword has undergone a peculiar transformation after integrating the space sword intent. It has become a kind of existence between the real and the unreal. At present, Chen Daoxuan's sword intent level is not high, and when his sword intent transforms into a law in the future, this shadow-bearing sword will be a sword of space law. The immortal sword is the embodiment of the laws of space. Luo Shuyuan and Luo Li didn't even react when Chen Daoxian wanted to kill the Bishui monkey patriarch. It wasn't until he took back the Qingying sword that Luo Li realized that a neighbor from the Zifu period had died. Is that the patriarch of the clear water ape just now? Luo Li nodded, it seems so. A monster in the middle of the Purple Palace, just died like this? Although Luo Shuyuan knew that Chen Daoxian was powerful, it was the first time to see Chen Daoxuan's action at such a close distance. Never mind that, Luo Li said eagerly, I'll go see Lang Chen first. Seeing his daughter's fiery look, Luo Shuyuan couldn't help shaking his head, it's really a girl's fault. Liar. Patriarch Luo. In front of his father, Chen Daoxian didn't have the embarrassment to directly call the lady, but Luo Lilier. Luo Shuyuan also knew the relationship between Chen Daoxian and Luo Li at this moment. Just when he felt embarrassed, Chen Daoxian said quickly, "Patriarch Luo calls me by my name." Luo Xiuyuan glanced at Chen Daoxian with a complicated expression, nodded and said, "Daoxian." Daoxian, congratulations on your success in forming a pill. From now on, I will be the vassal race of the Jindan clan. Luo Xiuyuan said with a look of joy on his face. Compared with the relationship between Chen Daoxian and Luo Li, in Luo Xiuyuan's view, the attachment relationship between the mermaid and the Chen family is more important to him. The Chen family has become the Jindan family. With the power of the Chen family and the strength of Chen Daoxian, the Chen family is very likely to become a dominant force in Cangzhou in the future. At that time, his merman clan will really hold his thighs and have enough background and foothold in the cruel underwater world of Wangxinghai. Patriarch Luo is polite. Just as Chen Daoxian was about to speak, the communication talisman in his storage bag rang. "You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."